Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei was abandoned and became Wukong Jin Mori from God of Highschool Part 5. Before we start, please go support jokersHearts for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Chapter 23, Yasaka's True Husband. Yasaka was shocked to see the person in front of her. It was someone she thought she would never see again. It was the same man the council assigned to bear offspring, the same one who disappeared when Kunu was born. Why would he appear at this moment? And especially when she had already found her true love, what does he want? Was what was on Yasaka's mind. Yasaka, my dear, you don't know how long I've waited to see you again, my love, said the man approaching the kitsune. He was a man who would make any woman fall in love at first sight. Long hair tied with a red ribbon, his clothes were in the style of a nobleman from ancient Asia. He carried with him a wooden fan. In a certain way Yasaka saw that he had other intentions. Yasaka, Gakuto, she said in a low voice that you could easily tell was not pleasant at all. Why are you back? Aren't you supposed to leave me when Kunu was born? The aforementioned just smiled, and approached the kitsune. Gakuto, Yasaka, it's true that I was wrong to leave you and Kunu alone. I'm really sorry, the man apologized, something that the blonde didn't believe. Yasaka, if that's all, you can go, said the serious yokai. Gakuto, it's not just that I want to come back with you, said the man. Yasaka, don't talk nonsense. We were never anything, the woman exclaimed furiously. Gakuto, I'm serious, my dear Yasaka, said the man, getting closer to the kitsune. With one hand he took her delicate chin. I'll show you it's real, said the man, getting closer little by little to the woman's lips. Yasaka, for some reason her body did not respond to her will. It was as if she stopped being herself, without being able to have control of her body. Little by little she was also getting closer to the lips of that man. A few centimeters from touching, you could feel the breathing of both. It was at that moment that a memory of the brown-haired man smiling at her with great love came to her mind, remembering the dates she had with the brown-haired man. It was where she was finally able to move her body again. Without wasting time she slapped the man hard. She didn't know that the man had activated something since he entered the room. The kitsune's breathing was slightly labored, as if she had come out of a forced trance. Yasaka, go. Get out of here, shouted the agitated woman. At that moment Gakuto started laughing maniacally. It seemed like a maniacal laugh. Gakuto, ha 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 ha. The man laughed. This caught the woman's attention, and she went into battle in case something happened. Yasaka, what are you laughing at? Gakuto, do you really think I'm just going to leave like that? The man asked with a smile. I'm not leaving here. I came to stay, also to take what's mine. Yasaka, there is nothing here that belongs to you. Gakuto, of course there is, said the man, approaching Yasaka slowly again. The kitsune, seeing that he was approaching, tried to move, but couldn't move. When she tried to speak, she couldn't let her voice out. Gakuto, I see that over time you have stopped being that woman of character that you were in the past. I suppose you will not be able to move or speak. That is because of this, said the man, showing a small golden candelabra in his hand. This is the reason why you cannot move or speak. What he had in that candlestick was incense, but not a normal one, but one that paralyzes anyone who is near it. Its smell is imperceptible to everyone. Gakuto, this is not a normal incense. It was created especially for you, my Yasaka. I knew you had a relationship with a certain Yakumo. I got very angry. That's why I came for what is mine from the beginning, the position of leader of the yokais, you, and Kunu, that I soon found. Seeing in your current state, I doubt that you can put up resistance, so I'll get to the point. I left you because you did not want to leave the position of leader despite having a daughter. Not for nothing I offered myself to give you offspring. I wanted power, said the man, showing his true nature. Gakuto, I left because I joined the Cow's Brigade. At that time it existed, but they did everything in the shadows. I joined them in exchange for them stripping you of your position. When they kidnapped you, I saw the perfect moment to take your place. But the bastard of the Sekiryuutei saved you. Not only you, but also your daughter. When the damned Sekiryuutei locked himself up with the beast of the apocalypse, for 7 years Rise of Imsama has been planning a great coup to take over the supernatural world and subdue those stupid humans. Everything was perfect. The allied factions had their guard down, but another obstacle had to appear to avoid everything. That damn Yakumo ruined everything. He said the name of Chestnut with great venom. Yasaka could only watch and listen. That man in front of him, the one the old yokai presented to him to have offspring, was revealing his true intentions. She gave him a look full of hatred, which she didn't care about. Gakuto, don't be like that, Yasaka. You make me feel bad. The man acted if you weren't fierce. Why can't you do anything now? Ha ha ha. After I enjoy you, you'll stop looking at me with those eyes. He charged the bridal kitsune. She couldn't do anything. I take her to a room that was connected to the office. Gakuto, so many years and nothing has changed in this old castle, said the man who left the kitsune on a bed that was in the room. You can deny it now, but we'll see how long you can last, said the man, starting by touching the woman's legs, his hands caressing every part of the kitsune's legs, while he was crying and licking her neck. Yasaka did everything possible to free herself and scream, but it was useless. Her body did not respond. She felt disgusted by the touch of any man other than the brown-haired one. The caresses were increasing, to the point that he began to open the woman's dress, revealing her underwear. He could see a tattoo of an oriental dragon on one of her breasts, but he didn't pay attention to it. Gakuto, if the mother is delirious, what will the daughter be like? Okukuku, the man laughed like crazy. Yasaka's sad face. Kunu, damn it, said the kitsune in her mind. Gakuto began to lick from the woman's shoulder until he reached under her breasts, while one hand touched her breasts while the other rubbed the woman's intimacy. Yasaka felt nothing but hate, being touched by someone other than the brown-haired boy, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't move. Yasaka, Issei, I'm sorry, I think I won't be able to receive you again when you get home. Never again. Take care of Kunu for me, my Issei, said the kitsune in her mind while tears began to come out of her golden eyes. The dragon tattoo began to shine intensely, surrounding the kitsune with a sky-blue aura, causing Gakuto to step back. Gakuto, what the hell is going on? World of Heroes, Hyoudou residence. After the brown-haired boy and his girls were finally able to leave their class because the crowd had left, without wasting time they said goodbye to everyone and went back. Upon arriving at the residence, the chestnut tree, as always, entered first since he knew what would happen. When he entered, his girls immediately rushed towards him. Of course, he was already used to it, so he applied a little force to avoid falling, but surprisingly, one person was missing, and it was Yasuka. Akane, Dad, said the girl, jumping into her father's arms. Issei, how did you behave, Akane? Akane, well, today I met Surzex Nii-chan, Mao Ne-chan, Rias Ne-chan, and also Milika's Nii. They are very funny, hee. Issei, I see, he said, smiling and caressing his little girl's head, who just laughed tenderly. And what did you girls do today? Those from the Citri Academy said the same. Classes ended normally, now that with the small help that the chestnut gave, the academy was able to remain stable. Gabriel said that he took some of his pieces to heaven for a short visit. Those who went talked about their experiences. The brown-haired man saw their expressions. They were happy, which made the brown-haired man smile. He also told them that they met Asia, Zenobia and Irina, which the brown-haired boy took as normal. Now they were just acquaintances to him. Olga talked about having met the Mao Lucifer, and he was not what she had in mind as Lucia. Chloe talked about wanting a gun, but couldn't find one that fit her perfectly. Kagaya and the brown-haired boy's parents said that they went with the Miko's family to talk about what the type of wedding would be like, which made the brown-haired boy sweat. The brown-haired boy said that Penami was now his teacher, something that more than one person noticed, while she smiled victoriously. Another thing is that she said that in 2 weeks a sports festival would be held, something that intrigued them since they didn't know what it was like. Without further ado, the chestnut-haired man went to help put the plates on the large table. It was at that precise moment that a feeling of pain accompanied by a woman's voice came to his mind. Issei-kun. The brown-haired boy recognized that voice perfectly. Without wasting time, he suddenly left the plates on the table. His expression changed to a serious one. This caught everyone's attention. Venelana, is something wrong, Issei? Asked the Baal. Issei, Yasaka is in danger. Kunu, let's go, said alarmed, the aforementioned. Without wasting time, they entered next to a gap created by the brown-haired. Ross, We have to follow them. Yasaka-sama needs us, said the albino. Akane stayed with her grandparents. Office opened a gap, where they all entered with destination to the natural Kyoto. With Yasaka. The leader of the yokais had been surrounded by a bluish aura. The dragon mark on her chest shone brightly. Quickly her body could move, she even felt like she could speak. Gakuto watched this without knowing, but he could see with difficulty that the dragon tattoo was shining brightly. Gakuto, don't tell me that you... Now Yasaka was immune to still being surrounded by that blue aura. While the mark shone slightly, he touched that mark with a smile, accompanied by a blush. Yasaka, thank you Issei, said the woman in her mind with a voice full of love, but her gaze sharpened when she saw the damned man in front of her. When he was about to speak, the place began to shake violently until a huge explosion occurred that blew up that entire part of the castle. A loud sound was created by that explosion. Now there was a large curtain of smoke covering the entire place. Yasaka, what's happening? The mark on her just stopped shining. What do you think you're doing, Yasaka? Said a voice that transmitted coldness to the man, while the kitsune, upon hearing that voice, smiled upon recognizing who it belonged to. Gakuto, who are you? Show yourself, damn it, said the angry man. The smoke curtain that was in front of him, he could see a halo. Under it, he could see red eyes with golden pupils, both shining intensely. A great gust of wind was unleashed in the place, removing the entire smoke screen, revealing who was in front of him. In front of him was the brown-haired man in his Monkey King mode, staring at him with a freezing gaze. Yasaka, Jean! Kunu, mother! Are you okay? Nothing happened to you, right? She hugged her mother while small tears came out of her eyes. Yasaka smiled as she wiped the tears from her daughter's eyes. Yasaka, I'm fine, thanks to you, said the woman, reciprocating her daughter's hug. But how did you know I was in trouble? Kunu, Jean, he knew you were in trouble. I don't know how, but he got alarmed, said the younger kitsune. Gakuto, Kunu? I am your father. Look how much you have grown, said the man when he saw his daughter. Kunu, you are not my father. I only have a mother. You hurt my mother, said the younger kitsune. Gakuto, daughter, I only came to recover you from his hands. There is no information about him or his origin, perhaps. Kunu, enough. He's none of that. You're the bad guy here. Gakuto, son, he didn't finish speaking since the brown-haired boy had appeared in front of him in the blink of an eye. Jean, who are you? He said with a fixed gaze. The man unconsciously took a few steps back. Gakuto, I am Yasaka's husband, said the man. Yasaka, you are not. Just the rest of the girls arrived through the gap created by Office. Venilana, Yasaka-san? Are you okay? Yasaka, yes, it was all thanks to Jean. Kuroka, what did they do to you, Naya? Yasaka, that man wanted to grape me, said the older kitsune, dodging the bomb. What he said left the girls in shock, and the brunette's senses allowed him to hear it clearly. Penemu, that damn guy. Griselda, he will receive his punishment. The chestnut asked the man. Jean, is what he said true? Gakuto, that's right. She will become my personal slave along with that brat. Thanks to you I was able to spread a poison around that will kill any man and paralyze any woman. Just by breathing it you will die, ha ha ha, said the maniacally, showing a bunch of leaf talismans that released large amounts of poison into the air. In a few seconds you will die. The poison does not affect the one who released it, he smiled. If he died, he could capture all the new arrivals. But the estimated time for him to die had already passed, so the chestnut was still alive. With the girls, Yasaka recognized that poison, since it was the same one he used to paralyze her, but used in a different way. Yasaka, that's the poison that paralyzed me. Gabriel, why isn't Jean moving? Office, it's simple, that doesn't affect us dragons, our powers protect us. Ross, what about us? Office, being marked by we are also protected, but sometimes the effects of the mark can vary depending on the dragon. Yasaka, that's why Pa Mark started to shine when it was in danger. Office, it is very possible, and it lets the dragon know if its partner is in danger. Serafal, Jean! Finish him off! Cheered the pigtailed Mao. While the rest were looking closely at the brown-haired man, Tsubaki was thoughtful. In a certain way she had already heard that man's voice somewhere, plus his presence. Sona, Tsubaki? Is something wrong? You seem to be thinking about something. Tsubaki, it's just that I feel like I've seen that man before. He looks a lot like the hooded men that Rise of Him had sent. Sona, now that you mention it, in the reports that Ne-sama gave me to read, there was no one hooded. Gabriel, it can only mean one thing. Grafia, could he be one of them? Tsubaki, I don't know, we'll have to wait for Jean to finish fighting him. This was heard by the chestnut tree, who never detached himself from his objective. Jean, tell me, what do you have to do with Sona and Tsubaki's kidnapping? He asked seriously. The man said nothing, but his expression said it all. Jean, I see then. Without warning he gave a strong blow to Gakuto's stomach, which knocked the wind out of him, who barely managed to get some distance due to his strength. Jean, I won't let you become unconscious or die. You will pay for what you said and did. Gakuto, damn! He launched multiple power seals where he restricted the power of anyone who was near him, turning him into a normal human to such an extent, or that's what the brown-haired man thought would happen to him. The chestnut tree took out Rui, giving it a few turns. It stuck it into the ground, releasing a great wave of power from the impact. With this the seals were broken as if nothing had happened. Gakuto, why did you have to show up? If you hadn't shown up when Rise of Him announced the war again, why? Jean, because I have people whom I must protect, said the brown-haired man, appearing in front of Gakuto. He pointed with Rui at the man. Expand Rui. After saying that, the staff grew, carrying Gakuto with one end of the staff while the other end the brown-haired man touched him. Gakuto was sent far into the sky. The same pillar that brought him there had returned to its original size, leaving him in the air for a moment, but it was enough for the brown-haired man to appear on his cloud. With his staff he hit him as if a bat were hitting a ball. Gakuto was sent back to Yasaka Castle. Gakuto crashed in front of the girls. They all looked at the man with hatred. Just at that moment the brown-haired man had appeared. Jean, Sona, Tsubaki, he definitely has something to do with her kidnapping back then. Sona, tell me, where are the other 3 hooded men? She asked seriously. Gakuto, Yasaka. Forgive me, the man asked his ex-wife for forgiveness. The aforementioned stopped in front of the man. Everyone was surprised at what she would say. Yasaka, I forgave you, was what she said, surprising everyone, including the brown-haired one. Gakuto smiled at this. Kunu, what are you saying, mother? Yasaka, it's the least I can do to thank you. Thanks to you I have Kunu, and with her we were able to meet our beloved. This surprised everyone present. Again I was able to find the man with whom I would spend the rest of my life, said the older Kitsune as she stood next to Chestnut. Jean, Yasaka, he couldn't speak as the aforementioned put a finger on his lips. Yasaka, we'll talk about this later, he said with a smile, returning to the citrus interrogation of the man. Sona, now tell us where the other 3 are? At that the man starts to laugh. Gakuto, ha 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 ha. Do you really think I'll tell them? Alicia, I thought you changed your mind? Gakuto, I see that my defeat is imminent, and to think that I could have the damn Hitch and her daughter in my hands. But they will finish you all off, said the man. Penemu, I think it will be by bad means then, said the Fall. Jean, wait. I'll take care of getting all the information out of him. Also Yasaka, I think you have to say something, right? I mean, your castle is destroyed in your office area. Yasaka, I'll say something about this, but what will you do with it? Jean, after you get the information out of him, you'll decide what to do with it. The Kutsun did not speak since her ex-husband spoke. Gakuto, I hope you die and that all these boars get raped, he said with a smile. Jean, enough. Girls, you take care of the rest, said the serious brown-haired boy, entering the dimensional gap. In this way they left the girls in the place. All of them knew that the man would not end well. Messing with one of the women of the chestnut tree was the same as digging his own grave. No, rather something worse. Venelana, Yasaka, Kunu, are you sure you want that? Yasaka, I'm more than sure, Venezuelan. Kunu, I'm the same as mother. Grafia, Now we have to ask for this place to be repaired. Sona, I wonder what he'll do with it. Ophis, nothing good will come to him. Gabriel, Yasaka, we will stay with you until this is fixed. Penemu, you can count on us, right girls? Celestine, you will have our support. Claudia, you are our friend. So the girls accompany Yasaka to make known what happened, of course omitting some things, since the information taken from Gakuto would be missing. Dimensional gap. In the middle of two large dragons, one black and one red, the brown-haired one appeared with one hand holding a wounded Gakuto, who, seeing who they were in front of him, was trembling with fear. Trihexa, hey Jean, what brings you here? Do you want to fight me already? Big Red, I see you're not coming alone. Jean, I'm not here to fight Trihexa, not today. I want you to help me get all the information I want to know out of her. Trihexa, you're not enough? I'm surprised. Jean, it's not that. I want him to suffer as much as I can. If I don't do it, I will definitely kill him. But with your help, I will keep him alive. We will give him something worse than death. He threw Gakuto near the dragons, who looked at him with not so good eyes. Gakuto, no, no. Have mercy, he said, crawling towards the brown-haired boy begging for mercy. Jean, you should have thought before touching my Yasaka. He said the last part in anger. Going after his ex-wife was a mistake that the man would pay dearly for. From that moment on, in that part of the gap, her screams of pain could be heard. They would make even the bravest tremble. The screams were so heartbreaking that her voice would stop coming out. World of Heroes, Hyoudou residence. Trad testified that it was an attack by someone who wanted to kill the leader of the yokai, and that they were her ex-husband. The damage to that part of the castle had been repaired. After saying that the man had been taken care of, everything returned to normal again. Without further ado, they returned home. As she emerged from the gap, Yasaka was greeted by Akane, who flew into the arms of her kitsune mother. Akane, Mom! Yasaka, Akane-chan, said the blonde affectionately, and hugging her dragon daughter. Fuyumi, girls are back, is everything okay? Ravel, of course Ka-sama, it's just that Issei-sama will be back a little late. Fuyumi, okay, I'll save some for you to eat. With Issei. The chestnut along with Trihexa and Great Red had tortured Gakuto to the max, who was in his current deplorable state. His bones were sticking out of his body, he was bleeding everywhere. He could barely be recognized by his weak voice, and they didn't let him die since with Great Red's powers he prevented him from dying. Gakuto, no, stop please, no, the man said harshly. Jean, you should have thought before meddling with what is important to me, he said seriously, but now you will tell me everything about what you know about the other 4 hooded men. Without further ado, he told everything he knew about the other 3 hooded men. The first was someone who was on the side of those against the anti-Mao during the internal war some time ago, and he was also someone who was truly feared. The second was someone who had never shown himself. I knew nothing about him, I only knew that he was fallen. The third was the most important among the 4. They didn't know who he was, but they knew that he came from the future. He said that he knew how to get rid of the Sekiryuutei, since he knew that he would not hesitate to exchange his place with the Maos. He was the one who made the plan for Rise of him to emerge 7 years after having been able to make the Sekiryuutei lock himself up with Trihexa. That was all I knew nothing else. Now I thought that I would finally leave him, but what will come now will be great. Jean, well, if that's all, you don't deserve to be alive anymore. Gakuto, wait. That wasn't the deal. Jean, I never said anything about a deal. I just told you to tell me everything you knew. He raised his right hand, summoning a large gray cloud that easily covered both dragons. Raiden! He squeezed his right hand, causing the cloud to fall hundreds of rays with only one objective, to Gakuto. The rays impacted, a great rumble was heard. It was so loud that his screams could not be heard. When it was over, there was no trace of the man. It was as if he had never been here. Jean, thank you. I think that is enough information, although it has not revealed what their appearance is like. Trihexa, seriously, you owe me a big fight after this. Jean, maybe you want me to kick your ass again? He said, smiling challengingly. Trihexa, not if I do it first, she said in the same way as the brown-haired boy. They both bumped fists, smiling. Great Red, just try not to destroy anything and don't wake me up, said the dragon, going back to sleep. This made the brown-haired man break out in a sweat. Jean, how have you endured it since we left there? Trihexa, if it helps me train the others, there's no problem, haha. Jean, ha sigh, okay, I'm leaving. The chestnut tree said goodbye to his friend to go back home. World of Heroes, Hyoudou residence. The chestnut tree came out of a gap in the living room of his home. He had removed his way. Issei, I'm home now, said the brown-haired boy, relaxed. Akane, Dad, welcome, said the little girl, hugging her father. Then Alana, welcome home, Issei. Grafia, welcome, Issei-sama. Leify/Ravel, Issei-sama. Gabriel, Issei-kun, did everything go well? Penemu, what happened to that bastard? Sarah Fall, Issei-chan, exclaimed the Mao, hitting her cheeks with those of her brown-haired girl. Fuyumi, son, come and eat, you better tell him there, said the mother. So the chestnut ate the PRTR that his mother had left him. There the chestnut told them about who the other 3 hooded men were. One was a fallen one, in which Penemu would be in charge of checking in Grigori. The second was a general who was against the anti-Maos during the internal war of the demons. Grafia, when hearing that, didn't know why, but it gave her a bad feeling. The third was said to be the strongest, and the second was Gakuto, who came from the future, and it was him who came up with the idea of getting rid of the chestnut when he found out that the Maos would lock him up with Trihexa. This last one surprised everyone since they didn't know about this. This last one would definitely be a danger. Issei, and that was all he said. Kuroka, and what did you do with him, Naya? Maya, you probably got what he deserved. Issei, well, I killed him, said the brown-haired boy. I'm sorry, Yasaka, Kunu, it's just that. Kunu, you don't need to apologize, Issei Dano, he wasn't my father. Yasaka, Issei-kun, you have nothing to apologize for, he asked for it himself. After the chestnut finished eating, they sat down to talk about trivial things, until Lulu asked the chestnut to let him study with him, something he would ask Azazel later. Issei, speaking of Azazel, have they already returned Ajuka to the underworld? Office, your machine already worked, so there's no problem anymore. Issei, I see that Megumi was the one who prevented it from working as it should. Sona, since when do you call the guardian of the dimensions so normally? Asked Sona, smiling, although she showed something else. Ross, I see. Griselda, I think I should educate you, she said, taking out a sword. Issei, oh look, I have to go take a bath, said the brown-haired boy somewhat nervously, and then ran out in a hurry. Tsubaki, that's fast, said the queen of Sona, dwelling where the brown-haired boy ran away. Celestine, Office-sama, could you tell us more about Issei-san's mark? Office, of course, as you know, I told you that it is not just a simple mark, isn't it? Asked the lowly of Infinity, receiving a nod from everyone. Prim, wait! Exclaimed the pink-haired girl. Olivia, Prim, why did you stop? Prim, it's because Akane is here. Tu-sama, Ka-sama, could you take Akane to play? Takashi, sure, come on Akane, we'll play horsey. Fuyumi, continue with your talk of Fufa, said the woman as she went off with her husband and granddaughter to play. Prim, okay, now you can continue, Office-sama. Office, well, Issei being a pure dragon, and not just any dragon, he is the 4th dragon god. When saying this, everyone was surprised, but it was something to be expected added to his powers from his previous life. The marks gained the ability to protect. Yasaka, so that's why I was able to free myself from what that bastard put on me. Office, that's right, the mark reacted with your feelings, since you thought of Issei at that moment, didn't you? Asked Anla Kitsune, who assided. Yasaka, it's true, when he was touching me I felt disgusted, I couldn't do anything, I could only think about Issei. Office, that's right, the mark will protect you, but if it's a deception, that is, if at that moment you had wanted the opposite, the mark would not be activated. Seraphal, and what will happen to Issei-chan? It was a good question asked by the Mao, which made everyone pay close attention to what Office would say. Office, you will feel a pain similar to that of the ritual by saying this, Everyone understood that the one who would suffer was the brown-haired boy and no one else. They all knew very well how the chestnut tree must have felt, especially those who saw it in person, but they were not worried, since they had given their whole being to the person they love. Then Yasaka got up and proceeded to go to the second floor. Kunu, mother, where are you going? Yasaka, I'm just going to rest. It was too much for one day, said the kitsune, smiling. So Yasaka left the girls in the living room, who began to talk. Sona Ne-sama, you said that in 2 weeks there would be a sports festival at the UA, right? Serafal, that's right, Sotan, and all classes will participate, she said happily. Tsubaki, what will the competitions be like? Penemu, Azazel, they gave me some recordings of what he was like, do you want to see them? Gabriel, yes, it will be fun, although we are not sure who will win. Griselda, I agree with you, Gabriel-sama. Grafia, if so, I'll bring tea and some dessert. Venelana, thanks Grafia. Ravel, I want to see Issei-sama show what he's capable of to silence the conceited people of other groups. With Issei. The brown-haired boy was taking a bath in the big tub. It should be said that Drake went to his room, so the brown-haired boy was alone. He looked up at the white ceiling, thinking about what Gakuto had said. What intrigued him most was the man who claimed to be from the future. He also devised a plan to seal himself with Trihexa. He was sure of one thing. He knew his old self very well that he wouldn't hesitate to do something like that. Issei, who are you? He asked into the void. He was so deep in his thoughts that he didn't hear the door open. The silhouette of a woman entered the tub with the chestnut tree. Because of the steam at the moment, nothing could be seen. It was Yasaka, who slowly approached the brown-haired boy, until he sat next to him and leaned on the brown-haired boy's shoulders. This made the brown-haired boy look at who it was. Issei, Yasaka? What are you doing here? Yasaka, can I be like this with you, Issei? Besides, you've seen more of me than that, said the woman lying down on the chestnut tree. Issei, it doesn't bother me, it's just that I hadn't seen you. To tell the truth, I feel very happy to have met you all. They both looked at each other. The distance between them was gradually shortening. You could feel both of their breathing. Issei, Yasaka. Yasaka, Issei. The small distance they had maintained had disappeared. They both kissed, a kiss full of love. Oral fluids were exchanged. Either of them wanted to separate. Yasaka sat on the brown-haired boy face to face, the intensity of the kiss increasing, both of them slowly letting themselves be carried away by their instincts. But oxygen was necessary. Unable to do anything else, they separated, leaving a thin thread of saliva that was unique with their mouths. Issei, ha. Yasaka, ha. They both looked at each other. Yasaka's golden eyes reflected great love as she looked at the brown-haired boy. The brunette approached the woman's ear, whispering something that made her blush and lick her lips. Yasaka created a barrier so that no one could hear what would happen next. Lemon skipped. You could see a brown-haired man sitting inside the tub. On his chest was Yasaka, smiling with a big blush. Issei, I feel very good, said the brunette, putting an arm around the blonde. Yasaka, I want my mating season to arrive. We won't be leaving for a week without rest of Fufu, said the kitsune before kissing the brown-haired boy, who reciprocated. Issei, thanks Yasaka, thanked the brown-haired boy, smiling. Yasaka, why? Issei, for not stopping believing that you would return. I love you like the others. I wouldn't know what to do if something happened to them. I couldn't forgive myself. Yasaka stood in front of the brown-haired boy. With her hands she took his face, making him stare at her. Yasaka, I always trusted that you would return, as well as Kunu and the other girls, because I truly love you. You are the man I have fallen madly in love with and to whom I will give all my love. You are my true husband, said the woman with a sweet smile. The brown-haired boy blushed upon seeing that smile, while small tears came out of his eyes. Yasaka noticed that and hugged him with great love. The brown hair remained between the woman's uncovered breasts. While she gently caressed the brown hair that challenged the gravity of her beloved, she and the girls knew that there were still small traces of the damage left by Rias, Aquino, Asia, Zenobia, Kaneko, and Irina. She and the girls would take care of healing that wound. Despite having stopped feeling any feelings towards those mentioned, A wound was something that would remain marked. Issei, thank you. Yasaka, you don't have to be pleased. A wife was always by her husband's side, she said sweetly. They stayed like that for a moment until it was time to leave. They got dressed and left the bathroom. When they left, they saw that it was already late. They had to go to sleep. Yasaka said goodbye to the brown-haired boy with a kiss. Today she would sleep with her daughter. Even though she was already grown, she was still her beloved daughter. The brown-haired boy also had to go to sleep, since from tomorrow many students from other classes would set their sights on Class 1A, although it would be easy for him, but he had to stay away. Upon reaching his room, he saw a certain blonde half-elf with tan skin sitting on the large bed. She was wearing a blue nightgown with straps. Issei, Chloe? Shouldn't you be sleeping? Do you want to sleep with me? Chloe, well, I was wondering if we could do it, said the blushing blonde, playing with her index fingers. The brunette remained static for a while. Without realizing that Chloe approached him, she took the collar of her man's shirt, attracting him towards her in order to plant a kiss that lasted for a few seconds. When they separated, a thin thread of saliva could be seen joining their mouths. By the moonlight that entered through the window, a slight shine could be seen on it. Chloe, Jin I Kaya. She didn't finish speaking as she was thrown onto the bed, staying under the brown-haired boy. Issei, Chloe, said the brown-haired girl, and then lightly bit the ear of the aforementioned girl, drawing a slight moan. Lemon skipped. DxD world, unknown place. In that place there were 3 hooded men, who were talking calmly about a certain black-haired man who was already dead. 1. Stupid Gakuto was caught by that guy when he was with his damn hitch of a wife, said a man with a thick voice. 2. He was very stupid, he thought he had everything calculated. But we have to plan better. The stupid rise of him failed with the plan I told him. I think it's better to do it myself, said the other, who came from the future. 3. How do you plan to do that? Asked the third. 1. You guys discuss. I'll keep looking for the second Lucifuge. I'm sure she'll want to kill me when she finds out I'm still alive, hee hee. She loves her dead sister very much, ha ha ha, said the man before leaving. 2. As I was saying, first we will bring some people back from the dead, especially a certain Ryanair. I have investigated that she possessed great power without releasing it. 3. Her. It's true, she could have gone very far. But she decided to give her life in exchange for the damned Sekiryuutei becoming stronger, he said with some anger. But how do you plan to bring back the dead? Only the Sephiroth Grail can do it. 2. Don't underestimate me. Have you forgotten that I come from the future? In that time there are other ways to bring large numbers into life. With rise of him. The son of the original Mao, Lucifer, was injured after training with Tathagata. Tathagata, I see you are ready for the second stage of your training. Rest, you will need it. Rise of him, ha ha, I didn't think it would be that difficult. Tathagata, you are too weak to face him. That's why you need to train enough so that you can use some of my power. Chapter 24, Angelica Lucifuge. After the great night that the brown-haired boy had with Yasaka in the bathtub, with Chloe in her room, 3 days passed. Today was Thursday. The brown-haired boy and some girls went to the UA Academy, but not before giving each one a kiss on the lips. Yasaka, for her part, reciprocated the kiss intensely. The same was with Chloe. But surprisingly, Celestine also asked for a kiss, something that the brown-haired boy remembered the kiss in the palace before defeating Kuroinu. He gladly gave her a kiss, which made the blonde elf blush up to her ears. Without further ado, the brown-haired boy and the group accompanied by Penemu went to the academy, since the brown-haired boy would help Midoriya with his physical condition, something that Azazel was too lazy to do, with the excuse of having a lot of work. For Claudia, she still hadn't found a way to approach the brown-haired man. She felt like she was the one who was left behind the most. Venelana, Claudia? Is something wrong? Asked the Baal upon seeing the aforementioned woman's expression. Claudia, no. Nothing, I'm fine. Gabriel, be honest, we are here to help you, said the seraph, smiling. Sabaki, we will help you, just let us know what the problem is. Sona, true, when we return from the academy Citri will tell us the situation, said Citri, creating a circle to take all those who work at the academy to it. Ross, I still wonder why Kuroka asked for the day off today. The albino wondered. Besides, I haven't seen him since morning. Where could he have gone? Without further ado, Tsubaki and Rosweiss went to the Citri Academy. Alicia, Prim, what do you want to do today? Prim, I asked Leify to lend me some of her magic books. I want to learn how to use magic. I want to be useful to Jean, said the girl. Alicia, I'll help you. I was thinking of practicing the sword a little, but I'll leave it for later. Maya, I will train with Griselda. I want to improve in combat. Lulu, me too. Lilith will play with Akane, said the copy of Ophis happily. Olga, Grafia, what are you doing today? Grafia, eh? I'm going to visit someone, said the Lucifuge with a slightly thoughtful look. Chloe, Origasama, what do you think if we use the training camp today? She asked excitedly. Olga, sure, could Yasaka help us? Yasaka, sure. Venelana approached Grafia to tell her something. Venelana, go, today is her birthday. I know she will love to see her sister and tell her about what has happened lately, she said, smiling. The Lucifuge also smiled and thanked her master and friend. On Claudia's part, she told those present that she wanted to move forward with the chestnut and that she did not want to be left behind. What no one knew about where the Nekashu was that it took its cat form and got into the chestnut's backpack. Today would be a crazy day for the chestnut at the nail. UA Academy, Room 1A. The brown-haired boy and the girls arrived at their classroom. His friends greeted him. They went to their seats. The brown-haired boy sat down after putting away his backpack. He noticed how it moved. Carefully, he opened it to see what was inside besides his notebooks. What he saw was that a small four-legged animal with a tail jumped towards the brown-haired boy's head. Issei Kuroka? Naya, the cat meowed in affirmation. Revel, Kuroka, what are you doing here? Leify, Kuroka-sama? Ophis, I think it's going to be a long day of school. Kunu, that's why you asked for a day off. Seraphal, failing in your duty as a teacher, how irresponsible, said the eldest Citri. Kuroka gave her a look that said, and you, like a Mao, aren't you the best person to say that? Momo, Issei-kun, is this your pet? Issei, no, it's part of the family, he said, stroking the cat's chin, who purred at the action. Uraraka, Issei-kun, I can take it, said the brown-haired girl, wanting to take the cat. Issei, just don't make her angry, he said, passing Kuroka to Uraraka. Uraraka, Kaya. It's very cute, said the brunette, hugging the cat. Leify, Uraraka-san, Kuroka is a girl, said the magician, smiling. Then the rest of the girls in the class came over to play with the cat, something she didn't like very much unless it was with her brown-haired boy. Kuroka jumped past all the girls in this world and stayed on the brown-haired boy's lap, curled up to continue sleeping. Midoriya, Issei-kun, why does he have two tails? Asked the green-haired man, something that those who saw it also began to wonder. This made the brown-haired boy and the girls nervous, since they didn't know how to say it. Issei Edo. Kuroka has a cozy eye. Yes, a cozy eye, he said, the brown-haired boy, laughing nervously. His girls gave a sigh of relief, as they were preparing to erase that part of their memories. Those who heard this believed it, since there have already been cases where an animal had a cozy eye, a clear example being the director of the academy. Jairu, what cozy eye is it? Once again, all eyes were on the chestnut tree. Issei, you wouldn't believe me if I told you, haha. Kirishima, come on, Hyoudou, tell us, said the redhead excitedly. The chestnut tree didn't know what to say, but someone who had just arrived answered him. For better or worse, she answered him. Azazel, the cat can take human form, but retains her cat abilities, said the fallen one, entering accompanied by Penemu. Students, Azazel-sensei and Penemu-sensei? Said the students, surprised by what he said. Mineta, will she be like the Nico girls? With a great body and revealing clothes? Asked the little pervert, thinking that she would be a hexy cat. Before his question could be answered, a large book hit the little boy's head, knocking him unconscious. The book bounced back at the person who hit him with it. It was nothing more and nothing less than the brown-haired man, who had his eyes closed, with a calm expression, but with a twitch in one of his eyebrows, clearly showing that he was upset by what had been said. They all saw the big book, which said, Official Regulations of the UA Academy. Issei, You say something else, and I swear you'll be dragon food, said the brown-haired boy. In an instant everyone saw a dragon instead of the brown-haired boy. Maybe it was their imagination, but the chills they felt seemed to be in front of a real one. Even the calmest, like Todoroki and Tokoemi, felt the sensation. Even Bakugo, who wasn't afraid of anything, trembled a little. There was silence in the room, while the brown-haired girls smiled, including Kuroka. Azazel, okay, everyone to the training camp. It will have to be ready for the festival, so hurry up, said the fallen master. Penemu, quick, Issei, Seraphal, Leifi, Ravel, Kanu and Ophis, come with me. We have to talk, she said calmly, looking at the cat. Issei, Midoriya, wait for me in the field. I'll catch up with you in a moment. Midoriya, hi. Issei-kun, said the green-haired boy, to go put on his sports uniform. Those mentioned for the fall followed her until finally there was no one around. Penemu, well, now that there's no one around, tell me, what are you doing here? She said, looking at Kuroka. Kuroka, I just wanted to see what it was like where Issei studies, Naya, said the black cat. Leifi, Kuroka-sama, you shouldn't miss work for something like that, the magician said. Kuroka, come on, just this once, right? I can see, Naya, said the kitten, pleading, which the brown-haired boy gladly accepted. Issei, of course, just for one condition, and that is that I don't want you to get away from me, okay? Asked the brown-haired boy, smiling. Kuroka, Naya, of course, he said happily. Seraphal, okay, we should head back to the training grounds. Penemu, even though you don't need them, just training with Issei is more effective, he said, giving the logic. Ravel, but it will be fun. Kanu, it's true, let's go, Faiz-chan, said the kitsune to the lowly of infinity. The group went to the training camp. Although they wouldn't do much training, the brown-haired boy would physically train the green-haired boy. Although he also played with Kuroka, it was more about pampering the Nekashu. DxD World, Underworld, Citri Academy. Sona was in her office. She had paperwork to do. As the director of the academy, she had a responsibility, and lately they had received more help with the financing. Since it was made known that Yakumo helped with funds to the academy, many did not want to get involved with something involved with him in a bad way. The black-haired woman thanked her boyfriend for having helped him. His thoughts were interrupted by a blue-haired girl who was his tower. She is Yura Tsubasa, one of the towers of Sona. Besides being secretly in love with Hyoudou Issei, well, all the nobility and even their king know that. It could be said that it was not so secret anymore. Her appearance had not changed much, although in these 7 years her attributes as women were noticed. She was a beautiful woman that any man would desire. Too bad she is only interested in a certain brown-haired man whose whereabouts remain unknown to the supernatural. Yura Edo Sona-sama? Can I ask you something? Said the blue-haired girl. Sona, tell me, I answered, not knowing what would come. Yura, Yakumo Jin is a close friend of Hyoudou, isn't he? Sona, you could say they are very close, she said, smiling, knowing that it is the same person. Yura, and I was wondering if you could tell me where Hyoudou is, she said while her cheeks had noticed a slight red color. Sona, processing that, mentally face-palmed herself. She had forgotten that one of her towers was in love with the brown-haired boy. At the same time, something was heard falling. Sona and Yura looked at the entrance of the address. There was a Tsubaki with the same expression as Sona. Sona, Tsubaki, we need to talk. Yura, if you allow us, I will answer your question later, okay? She said to her tower. The aforementioned blue-haired girl was happy with the hope that he would tell her where he was so she could confess these feelings from 7 years ago. This time without arguments, and with the others out, she would definitely be able to conquer the brunette without obstacles. Yura, thank you very much, Sona-sama, she said as she left the room, leaving her king and queen to talk alone. Sona, Tsubaki, I think we forgot that Yura too. Tsubaki, you're right, now that you mention it, I remember how she cried after he left. Sona, I know that this topic about Issei is a bit delicate, although she also deserves to be happy. Tsubaki, she's right, although how the others will take this news, she said, remembering that only they knew the blue-haired girl's feelings. Sona, I got it, she said to say something in a low voice to her queen. Tsubaki, what a great idea! I'm sure it will be a surprise for both of us, hee. The two had decided to invite a certain tower to watch the sports festival so he could see the chestnut's big change. He would definitely faint upon learning that it had been between them for a long time. World of Heroes, Hyoudou residence. Claudia had been talking about how she wanted to move forward with the brown-haired boy. She couldn't find a way to talk about it with him. Venelana, Celestine, Gabriel, Griselda, Lilith, Alicia, Prim, Olga, Chloe, Yasaka, Maya and Lulu listened to this, while the brown-haired boy's parents went out for a walk with their beloved granddaughter, to leave the girls to see if another daughter-in-law appeared. Venelana, despite sleeping with him, you still haven't confessed to him, and to think that you're already a woman, you still don't know how to deal with a man. A Fufala Bale laughed, making Claudia feel ashamed. Celestine, Hasai, you're not the only one, said the blonde. Remembering what she had seen the night before, she immediately blushes. Claudia, Celestine-sama? Are you okay? You look very red, said her personal guard and chestnut pawn. Celestine, eh? Ah. Yes. I'm fine, I'm just a little hot, the elf excused herself. Lulu, I want to be one with Jean, you don't know how jealous I am, said the lowly, pointing at each one that had the chestnut mark. Yasaka, when you grow up, hee, you're still too little, the lowly's kitsune mocked. Lulu, but I'm 17. Don't you think I can do it now? The girl pouted. Kagaya, so do you have something planned? Asked the Miko. Venelana, Yufufu, you'll see, I'll take care of you, Claudia-chan, said the Bale, laughing. Olga, Celestine, I think I'll help you, she said, smiling, remembering a certain remedy that worked for a certain blonde to confess. UA Academy. On the practice field, all the students were training their quirks, some in the gym, others just destroying things, others jumping off the top of a building, etc. The brown-haired boy was pampering Kuroka, who kept purring at the caresses the brown-haired boy gave her, in addition to playing with her, while the rest of the girls watched this with some jealousy from afar. Kuroka's sad face. It was definitely a great idea, Nya, she said in her mind. Midoriya, Issei-kun, how will meditating help me master my quirk? Asked the green-haired man in the lotus position. Issei, as All Might Sensei said, I will help you master your quirk without having to break your bones. Besides, that lazy Azazel didn't want to help me. He thought about the last part. Midoriya, but aren't I supposed to be training my physical condition? Issei, first I want you to use some of its power, but without breaking yourself. Midoriya, how will I do that? Issei, as I understand it, you can't use 100%. Why don't you just use a small percentage? As far as you can stand it, an example would be no. Like in video games, when your character uses parts of his powers and an aura starts to surround him. The peace symbol just appeared in his muscular form and hero suit. All Might, young Midoriya, young Hyoudou, how is your training going? Asked the blonde. Issei, I want to see if he can use a small part of his power. All Might, it's a good idea, you should try it, young Midoriya, said the man. Midoriya, hi. Issei, changing the subject, how are you after using acupuncture? All Might, I must admit, this is the first time I've seen it used this way. My time limit is 3 hours for every 6 hours of rest. I appreciated the peace symbol. While the brunette and the blonde were talking, Kuroka didn't care about the conversation, she just continued enjoying being comfortably in the brunette's lap. The green-haired boy did what the brown-haired boy said, using a part of One for All, concentrating the power of his quirk. It was a little difficult, but he had to do it. He always used it only when attacking, and what if he used it even when not attacking? He had to try. Without further ado, he did everything he could to do something similar to what was explained with the brown-haired boy. He removed the limiters from Midoriya's body because a moment with acupuncture was enough for the boy to reach the goal set by the brown-haired boy. All Might, young Midoriya. Is that it? Issei, congratulations, smiling. Midoriya, yes, it's just a small part of One for All, said the green-haired boy, trying to maintain it. Author's note, it's the full cowl, but 5%. This story will have slight changes, but will continue with its plot. Issei, what will you call it? The green-haired man thought about it for a moment, and then it disappeared. It was like a cloak surrounding him, so he knew what to call it. Midoriya, One for All, full cowl, he said, smiling. DxD world, human world. In the middle of a beautiful forest, green grass, the sunlight illuminated the green grass of the place, accompanied by dandelions, but in the middle there was a bump, and there was a person in front of her. There was Grafia, who was not wearing her maid clothes, she was wearing a normal dress. She looked at the grave, with a nostalgic smile, as well as a sad expression, but she tried to smile. She went down to the height of the grave to clean the grass that covered it. When she cleaned it, she could finally see the name. Here rests Angelica Lucifuge, great sister. Despite everything, she always fought until the end. May she rest in peace. Grafia came to visit the grave every year on the same day. The day was her beloved younger sister's birthday. Every time she visited her, she told her about what she had experienced, in addition to cleaning and preventing vegetation from covering her grave. She told him everything, even her feelings about a certain brunette, who had recently returned, and that they were a couple. Author's note: listen to this song for the moment. Grafia, Angelica, how have you been? You know, I have something to tell you. Do you remember Issei? Well, he's been back for months, and I was finally able to confess my feelings to him. We went on dates. We've even done it, he said, the Lucifuge smiling, but her look was nostalgic. He's the man I've waited so long for. If you were alive, even though you would definitely fall in love with him too, you would feel the warmth that comes off him. He's so warm and protective, he would definitely accept your feelings. He may be a little silly sometimes, but he always does his best to make everyone smile. Always smile despite what he's done in his past. If he had enough strength during that moment, even Mao didn't have the strength. Flashback. Hundreds of years ago, during the civil war between the demons, after the death of the 4 original Maos, they're descendants of them, but there was a group that opposed them, saying that the names of the Maos should be titles to the most suitable to lead the underworld. Because of these, a war broke out throughout the underworld. The battle lasted a long time, with the victory of the anti-Maos faction, with the retreat of the enemy. During that time, there were 3 women escaping from the faction of the descendants of the Maos. The 3 women were Mao Michaelis, Grafia Lucifuge, Angelica Lucifuge. The first 2 were injured from defeating the demons that chased him, while Angelica, being the youngest, could not fight for long periods of time. The Lucifuge and Michaelis clans were in charge of serving the demon king Lucifer. They were on the side of the Maos, but during this war they understood that the vision of the anti-Maos faction was better to break the slavery of the ancient Maos, so they decided to go to the other side, which is why they were classified as traitors. Angelica Lucifuge was the youngest of the 3 Lucifuge. She had a great resemblance to her older sister Grafia Lucifuge. She did not like to fight, but that did not prevent her from being someone powerful. But being the youngest, she could not maintain a long battle. She only limited herself to healing most of her sister and Mao's wounds. Grafia, now there's not much left, resist, said a wounded and weak platinum-haired girl, being helped by her friend and sister. Mao, just a little more, said an equally hurt redhead. Angelica, Mao-san, ne-sama. Hold on, we're almost there, said the younger Lucifuge, worried about the 2 mentioned. About to reach the other side, they didn't see that someone was following them to carry out a surprise attack. A sphere of demonic power was launched towards the 3 girls, managing to hurt Grafia and Mao more, while Angelica looked at who it was. Damn traitors! I'll take them back. It would be a shame to kill them, haha, said a being while showing itself. The man had parts of demons-like armor, but it was part of him. He is Amon, one of the demon generals in the service of the demon kings. He was the strongest of all. Angelica, ne-sama. Mao-san. You guys go on, I'll buy you some time, said the minor Lucifuge surrounded by demonic power. Grafia, Angelica, no. It's too much for you, she said worriedly, but with the wounds she had she couldn't move. Mao, stay away from her. Damn it! He was just like Grafia. Angelica launched herself against Amon. The fight leaned towards Angelica's side, but little by little she was losing power, until she could no longer face him. Amon, ha ha ha, it was to be expected from a Lucifuge, but you're still young, he said while he had Angelica by the neck. But the aforementioned spit in his face, making him angry. Amon, damn hitch! How dare you! He said furiously, while with one hand he prepared to attack. Grafia with all her strength stood up and threw herself as fast as she could to avoid what Amon would do, but it was too late. A few meters from arriving, his sister had been pierced in the stomach by the general's arm. Seeing this, she fell to her knees, her eyes turned dark. Her own sister had been murdered in front of her. The body was thrown to Grafia. She caught him in her arms. Tears began to come out of her eyes. He shook his sister slightly, but there was no reaction. Grafia, no! No! She screamed in pain. Mao, who could barely get up, felt devastated at not being able to do anything to prevent it. Amon, ha ha ha, he deserved it. I think you're next, he said, approaching Grafia. The older Lucifuge looked at the general with hatred. With her last strength and demonic power, she created a large pillar of ice ready to nail him. Amon, do you think you can kill me with that? Don't make me laugh, ha 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 ha! He laughed maniacally. He launched himself towards Grafia at great speed. With the same hand that killed Angelica, he surrounded him with demonic power. He was confident. He knew that with the current state of those two women he could not face him, so he was confident that he would kill them easily. It was at that precise moment that the entire underworld began to tremble. No one knew the cause, but a powerful presence could be felt, so powerful that it had no comparison, not even the beast that is currently sealed. Unaware that a certain individual from another world had come to this world through the dimension where Trihexa was currently imprisoned. Joker, I'll talk about this another time. Amon, but what? He said, surprised by such a sudden tremor accompanied by such a presence that he let his guard down. Grafia saw the opportunity. It was her only one, otherwise everything would be over. Without further ado, she launched the great pillar of ice created with demonic power. The pillar went at great speed to stick it in Amon's chest, which she achieved. Amon Agag! The spear pierced his chest completely. Amon's body fell into the depths of a forest. Grafia, who continued hugging her sister's corpse, she did not stop crying for the great loss. Mao, who strongly approached the two, hugged her to comfort her. Mao, I am sorry. Grafia, she said, hugging the aforementioned. She was equally devastated by this loss. Grafia, Angelica, she said while hugging the aforementioned girl tighter. This day would be remembered by the Lucifuge. After Angelica's death, her body was buried in her favorite place in the human world, where it would be kept secret. Only she and Mao knew about this place, where he visited her on her birthday and on days when he was free. Things were not easy for Grafia and Mao when they joined the anti-Mao side. They were always seen as spies, but not everything was bad. Xerxes at that time had supported them so that they would be accepted. With this simple reason, in a certain way Xerxes and Mao had fallen in love, something that was not well seen by the new underworld. They told the redhead that he would regret it, but for him it would not be a mistake. Xerxes did everything to ensure that Mao and Grafia were forgiven, even to the point of sacrificing his own life. In the end they were accepted, Grafia working as a maid for the Gremry house. Mao had become Xerxes' wife. This was hidden for obvious reasons, for the rest of the underworld. They only knew that Xerxes' wife was from the other side and what he did to forgive her. More than that, it was already a mystery to know who Xerxes' wife was. For a time they believed it was Grafia. And that would be a summary. For more depth, let the story progress. V. End of background song. End of flashback. Grafia remembered that day. Even though years had passed, the wound was fresh. Just remembering it hurt. Grafia, forgive me, she said through tears. The one who was known in the underworld for her seriousness was crying. So much sadness that he didn't feel a presence approaching him at great speed. Amidst tears and cries, a deep-sounding voice was heard throughout the forest. I've finally found you, damned Lucifuge, he said with venom in his voice. The aforementioned, upon hearing this, wiped her tears and stood on guard. She knew very well who knew about this place, so she returned to her usual seriousness for a possible confrontation. Grafia, show yourself. It seems like you want to meet your dear sister, don't you? He said with a mocking voice. You know very well, I don't think it's necessary to introduce myself again, or is it? Grafia thought about what he said. The only one who knew about her sister's death was Xerxes, Mao, Venelana and Xiaticus. She thought deeper. She could come to a conclusion that there was one more who knew, but was that possible? She remembered that she had killed him. Do you still not know who I am? He said mockingly, or worse, showing himself as a hooded man. Grafia, I'm not playing, he said seriously, creating several spears of different elements, made with demonic power. The hooded man began to grow, taking on certain characteristics that the silver-haired woman remembers very well about him. In front of her was the one she thought had dealt a fatal blow, that scar on his chest, the same place she had lashed out long ago to avenge her deceased sister. Grafia, you! She said angrily. Amon, how long, Grafia? During all this time you were the hitch of those damned traitors. You are a disgrace to the demons, he said, putting himself in a battle pose, surrounded by demonic power. They both looked at each other to wait for who would strike first, something that didn't take long to find out, since Amon launched himself at her to strike hard. Grafia stepped back to throw the multiple elemental spears at him. Some of them were able to hit him, while others were repelled. Amon, I see that these years have not weakened you at all. I will enjoy killing you, damn traitor, ha ha ha. Author's note: I don't know if it's a valid reason to get revenge on Grafia, but whatever, a demon can be very spiteful for a long, long time. After all, the two remaining hooded figures are the most important. Grafia, how are you alive? I asked if I should let my guard down. Amon, you should have made sure that she was dead. Fate didn't want her to die, ha ha ha. But I must admit, that wound of yours took hundreds of years to heal. Since then I have searched for any place where I could find you. This was my last place, since it was that dead woman's favorite place, wasn't it? And so I suspected that her grave would be here. I'm right, now be a good girl and die, he exclaimed, launching himself at Grafia again. The aforementioned took out her demon wings to begin a fight in the air. The power of both when they collided was impressive. A great blizzard of power was present in the place. Some dawns were almost torn away. Grafia launched bursts of power while analyzing the best way to kill Amon. She knew he was stronger than before. She didn't want to make the same mistake. This time she would definitely kill him. Amon deflected those attacks, but couldn't get close, because she was more of a long-range attack type, while he was more of a physical attack type. Amon, not bad, but it still won't be enough to kill me, he said, throwing himself without caring about receiving those attacks. Grafia, TSK, she clicked her tongue, immediately creating a barrier to defend against Amon's attack, succeeding but was sent back slightly. By dispelling the barrier, Grafia launches attacks with great magical power at him again, which Amon did the same. He surrounded his fist with great demonic power to deliver a blow that would collide with Grafia's attack, thus creating a great explosion. The surroundings were a little destroyed. Even though Grafia tried not to destroy this place, Amon was the opposite. He didn't care in order to kill her. Amon, why are you holding back? Don't you want to destroy this place? Ha! Grafia didn't say anything. She simply remained as serious as always, even though what Amon said was true, and knowing him, it would be difficult to change places to fight. This would be her disadvantage. She had to make a plan to get him away from here. Again, both of them launched themselves to attack. Grafia launched great attacks to be able to get him away from the place. But it was not easy. Amon knew that she could not fight without destroying this place, so she did not let herself. She had to take advantage of this advantage. The fight intensified, but the balance leaned towards Amon's side. Due to the aforementioned advantage, Grafia began to retreat. Amon smiled to see that he won. Grafia was sent crashing into a dawn without receiving any damage, but she was a little far from the grave she was supposed to protect, while Amon was closer to that grave. World of Heroes. The UA classes had ended for today. Everyone was leaving the academy to return to their respective homes. Today was a long day of training for almost everyone, since Serafal, Leifi, Ravel, Kanu and Ophis helped their classmates practice, although it was more so that they could execute their quirks faster, while with the brown-haired boy. He helped the green-haired boy to be able to use one for all without breaking his bones every time he used it, successfully achieving it even if it was a small part of that power. It was a good start. There was still a little more weak to improve. Finally, in addition to dealing with All Might's wound, which had to be applied once every day. Author's note: acupuncture is used to heal the wound, but not 100%. It will only prolong its time limit. With that said, let's continue. The brown-haired boy was walking with a kuroka on his head, The cat hadn't left the brown-haired boy's side all day, she was even fed by him during lunch. It was a perfect day for the Nekishu. She was listening to everyone's conversations. Issei, you were incredible, Midoriya, the brown-haired boy congratulated his green-haired friend. Midoriya, thank you, Issei-kun. But because of this you couldn't train, he thanked his friend, but at the same time he felt bad for helping him with his quirk. It would take away time from him to be more prepared on the day of the festival. Issei, don't say that, hee. I care more about helping you. That's what friends are for, said the brown-haired boy, smiling while offering a fist bump. The aforementioned smiled and happily imitated the brown-haired man in a fist bump. With the girls, she talked about trivial things, but mostly it was about training. Uraraka, what a great day we had, hee. I've never felt so tired. I could go home and throw myself into bed, said the smiling brunette, making expressions of tiredness. Jairu, even though with that we will be more prepared for the festival, remember that we will most likely be the target of the other groups, said Jack's girl, equally tired but animated. Momo, I must admit, it helped me a lot. The advantage of my quirk is that it takes time to create the object. With this I can strengthen my physical condition. Thanks, girls. Yayorosa thanked her friends. Hagakure, I never thought training would be so difficult. Ha, I really am tired, said the invisible girl, although it wasn't noticeable. From her voice you could tell that she was also tired. Tsuyu, what's surprising is that you guys aren't tired, Karo, said the frog girl to the supernatural girls. In a certain way it made sense. They all trained hard, just like them. But apparently it wasn't so, although they, along with the brown-haired boy, had the reputation of having been the ones who had the highest score in the field exam to enter the UA, far surpassing Bakugo, who had the highest grade in writing. But being surpassed by the brown-haired boy and them in the field exam, to say the least. Serafal, that's because Issei-chan trains with us. That's why we can last longer than other people, said the Mao with this half-lie and half-truth. Leify, at first it was a little difficult to keep up with Issei-sama, especially when my quirk isn't very physical, so to speak, said the magician. Besides being a bishop, it would obviously be based more on magic than physicality. Kunu, Issei Deno, sometimes he can be very strict when training, but they do it so that we are strong, and in a certain way they are very effective with good results, said the kitsune. That when she became the chestnut's pawn she began to train with her king/husband. It was difficult, but she was able to keep up with him, although she held back. She understood that he started little by little. Thanks to that, she was able to better perfect her kitsune powers plus the help of her mother. Ravel, Kunu is right. That's why we can last a little longer than you. That's why it doesn't cost us much to try so hard, said the phoenix, she being a bishop previously in her brother's nobility. When the brown-haired man gave her the pawn piece she didn't understand why. But now, having the ability to give hand-to-hand combat she could also promote, she would have a great repertoire for various situations when she entered the raiding game season, which wouldn't take long for the underworld to organize a certain tournament every year. Ophis, my transformation increases my physical condition, so I have no problem lasting a long time without resting, said the infinite lowly. I couldn't say I had infinite power. That would be crazy. Mina, that explains why they are so good at simulation combat. They seem to have a lot of experience, said the pink-haired girl. Her comment caused the brown-haired girls to smile a little nervously. I couldn't say that they had already been in a war. That would be crazy, so I just had to say that I had a little combat experience. Momo, that explains a lot about his abilities. Uraraka, and what about Azazel-sensei? You've known him long before entering the UA, haven't you? The girl asked. Ravel, you could say yes. Before entering the UA, we all studied at home, and Azazel was our teacher, said the blonde phoenix with this lie. She had to cover that part of what relationship they have with the fallen. Hagakure, wait. You study at home. Does that mean you? Said the invisible girl, surprised, since to have a private teacher it had to be. Uraraka, do any of you come from a rich family? Exclaimed the girl incredulously, hoping it wasn't true. They all focused their gazes on Serafal, Ravel, Kunu, Leify and Ophis, although the last one was not a family member, although her title could be said to be equal or superior. Leify, you could say that we all came from a rich family outside of Japan, but we decided to come study in Japan, the magician said. Everyone was surprised, even Momo, who came from the Yayorosa family, which was one of the richest. Tsuyu, so high it is too? Kero asked the frog girl. Revel, he is too, but he doesn't like being treated with respect, he prefers to be the same as everyone else. Momo, that explains a lot about his manners, it's like he's a nobleman, said the black comb. The chestnut's manners are due to Venezuelan. When he was promised to Rias, he was taught everything necessary to behave like a nobleman. Along with Milikas he was educated, although at first he was a disaster, but he was able to learn everything taught by Bale and other teachers. Leifi, at first she had to learn, it was very difficult for her, but in the end she succeeded, said the magician, smiling. With the boys, Midoriya went a different way, said goodbye to his friends, went another way, but not before taking a secret photo of the brown-haired boy, successfully achieving it. Without further ado he ran to his house to tell him about the achievement he got today with his quirk. Joker, Futabea, what have I told you about shipping characters of the same gender? Futubakam on Akira-kun, if there is Issei in the underworld, why is there an Issei in the world of heroes? It will be fun, hee. Joker, Futaba. Futaba, yes? Joker, I'll give your portion to Mona. Futaba, no. Hagakure, Tsuyu and Mina had also taken different paths already, leaving the brown-haired boy alone. But in that, again the feeling of danger lurked. It was the same feeling he felt when Yasaka called him, but this time it was from Grafia. Without wasting time he ran to an alley. The girls saw the sudden action of the brown-haired boy, while some already had an idea of what was possibly happening. The brown-haired boy left not before handing Kuroka over to Leifi. Uraraka, Issei-kun? Where are you going? I asked because of the brown-haired boy's sudden action. Momo, we must follow him, he seemed serious, it must be something important, said the vice president of the class, agreeing. When they were about to go down the same alley where the chestnut tree was, they were stopped by some girls. Revel, it's nothing, Momo, maybe he remembered he had to buy something important, said Revel, trying to make them believe. Jairu, but his expression was serious, that can't be it. He said, wanting to go see what was happening, since not even during the attack did he show a serious expression like that. Leifi, Jairu-san, it's nothing important, believe us. The magician stopped the girls who wanted to go see. Ophis, let them pass with just that. The girls looked at the lowly's gaze and understood that the brown-haired boy would no longer be there. Without further ado, they let Momo, Jairu and Uraraka pass. When they reached the alley where the chestnut tree had gone, they saw that there was no trace of the chestnut tree. They looked everywhere but did not find it. Momo, where did he go? Kunu, maybe it was through the other exit of the alley? I think that one leads to the trading district, said the kitsune. The good thing was that with luck that path led to the mentioned place. Revel, see, maybe I forgot to buy something. It would be better to continue on our way home, said the blonde phoenix. Seraphol, I want to get home, or we'll be late for dinner, said the Mao, trying to change the subject. The girls believed her with difficulty, but she had no other option. Looking for him would be difficult, but she would ask another day. With Grafia. Amon was closer to his sister's grave. He knew that he would try to destroy it. Seeing that he couldn't help but remember that moment when his sister was murdered, he quickly threw himself towards Amon. He wouldn't let him dismiss the most important memory for her, unconsciously in a desperate act to avoid that. She couldn't think well because of that memory. Desperate, the mark on her began to shine, but with the clothes she was wearing she couldn't see that light clearly. An instant would be enough. Amon, I will destroy this tomb, ha ha, then you will have lost the desire to continue fighting, he said, laughing while throwing a powerful fist with demonic power. Before his fist could hit the grave, it was intercepted by a metal pillar. Amon's fist had struck the chestnut's rui, thus ensuring that Angelica's tomb was intact. Amon recognized who it was, and without wasting time, he backed away to gain distance. Grafia saw that. She was relieved that the grave was not destroyed thanks to the sudden appearance of the chestnut. Author's note: I don't know if there's a photo from that time when Angelica was still alive. Most likely it is a painting. That and the grave would be the only things left of Grafia from her sister. So with that said, we continue. Amon, you! How did you get here? He asked angrily at the presence of the brown-haired boy. Now he would have a hard time. Author's note: using either Issei or Jin is valid. or it will depend on the situation, so please don't come and tell me to decide to use one of the two, since technically it is the same person. Jin, I should ask you, not you, he said seriously. Just that Grafia arrives next to the chestnut tree. Grafia, Jin-sama. How did I get here? She asked, since she didn't know how she got here, without noticing that the mark shines dimly but is covered by clothing. Jin, well, the mark was activated, and with that I managed to find you, he said with a soft smile, pointing at the mark. Grafia looked, and it was true, the mark shone. Now she understood how it had arrived. Jin, you rest, I'll take care of him, said the brown-haired boy, getting into battle, but was stopped by the silver-haired girl. Grafia, no, this is something personal. I will take care of him once and for all, she said with a determined look. The brown-haired boy, seeing Grafia's look, knew she was serious, so he sighed and stood behind Grafia, giving her space to fight. He wouldn't get in the way unless it was necessary, for now he would just be a spectator. Grafia. But the brown-haired boy paid close attention. I want you to send him out of this place so I can have my fight with him, he said without taking his gaze off Amon. Jin, leave it to me! Exclaimed the brown-haired boy, appearing in front of Amon. With a kick he threw him into the sky, without the ex-general being able to react. Amon, but what Aag Hai? He didn't finish speaking and was sent to heaven. Jin, the rest is yours, Grafia, said the brown-haired boy. Grafia, without wasting time, flew off to where Amon was. In the sky, Amon spread his wings to stop. That blow was fast enough for him not to see it. Amon, that damn guy, now it will be more difficult to achieve my goal, he said angrily. Agag, he complained in pain as he felt himself being attacked. For the moment he was distracted. Grafia flew at high speed, while launching demonic power, weather explosions, spears of different elements. Amon tried to get close to her, managing to block all of the silver-haired girl's attacks, just inches away from landing a big blow, but he received 3 kicks that made him retreat. Grafia, Doshinryu Ashijutsu, Sandan Mawashi. Renewal Taekwondo, triple kick, said the Lucifuge in a pose as if she had kicked. Author's note: the technique that Grafia used was Renewal Taekwondo third wedge hook, and most of her pieces know some basic attacks of that style, or at least those who know a little bit of hand-to-hand combat, except for Leifi, who is possibly the one who costs the most work along with Olga. Jin, full whistle, he couldn't use physical strength for that, but he used it with democratic power. Incredible, said the brown-haired boy, praising the silver-haired girl while watching the fight. Back from the fight, Amon felt like his left rib, his right neck, and his left head were hurting immensely. Amon, you had never learned to fight hand-to-hand. How do you know now? He exclaimed, obviously showing signs of pain. Grafia, at first I thought that with my demonic power I could fight, but after a duel with Jin-sama, I have become interested in learning a little. Maybe it is not so much physical power, but combined with my demonic power it can be deadly, said the Lucifuge, now putting herself in a fighting pose, something that surprised Amon. As the brown-haired boy watched this with a slight smile, he could now see the fruits of his girl, after showing her a little at her request. Joker, just because I don't put training doesn't mean that nobody trains, I just don't put it until a certain point. Futaba, Akira. Did you like what I put for Midoriya? Will he take a picture of the protagonist? Joker, Akira no yaoi Futaba shipping. Futaba, come on, there's already Issei's Skiba, why not Issei's Midoriya? It will be fun, hee. Joker, there will be no dinner. Futaba, no. Dinner, no. Back to the fight, now yes. Grafia, now without damaging the place, I'll kill you, said the Lucifuge, launching herself into the attack this time, and not waiting for Amon to do something. Amon, damn it! He also launched himself into the attack. Both almost colliding, Grafia rose above Amon, striking with a technique of the same fighting style she learned from the married woman. Doshinryu, axe, Taekwondo, axe, a strong vertical axe-type foot strike downwards at high speed, not counting that the demonic power combined with it was lethal, it could devastate a great distance. Amon saw this and tried to cover himself with his arms in the form of an X, and they managed to protect him. Great was his surprise when Grafia's blow connected with his arms. He felt an enormous pain in them, This attack was much more powerful than the previous one, but that would not end only in his arms. He felt how he was split in half vertically with the air created by the attack. He grimaced in pain, but that was not over yet. The silver-haired woman was still removing her foot, so she strengthened it with more demonic power. She lowered it at great speed, causing Amon to be shot at great speed towards the ground, creating a crater where he crashed. The brown-haired boy also moved to stay close to Amon, where he would continue watching the fight. Amon woke up with his arms broken and wounds from the impact, not counting the internal injuries he had. Amon, arg, damn Lucifuge, I see that when you turn around that hitch of that bastard has taught you new tricks, he said in a mocking tone without leaving aside the hatred. The brown-haired boy sharpened his gaze on him. He felt offended, not by himself, but by calling his Grafia a hitch, but he knew that this would soon end, so he held back the urge to hit him for insulting him. He knew who would take care of him. Grafia just arrives and stands in front of Amon, in the air. Grafia, this time you won't survive, she said, preparing to kick. The brown-haired boy recognized that pose. It was the same one he had when he launched that attack, but knowing Grafia, it would be a little different for using demonic power, and that attack was Soakuryu kick, twin demon dragon kick, a version of Grafia's own version of the chestnut version. Twin dragon kick, Grafia being more attacked by her demonic power, and less physical strength, compensates for it with her demonic power. The attack was the same as the chestnuts. It consisted of 2 eastern dragons around him, but unlike the chestnuts' blue ones, Grafia's were purple. Flashback. The chestnut-haired man was training in one of the residence's underground floors. He was also teaching a little hand-to-hand combat to his favorites, and one of them was Grafia. The silver-haired girl watched the brunette's movements closely. She wasn't one of those who attacked hand-to-hand, but after having a duel with the brunette, she knew it wouldn't be bad to learn. Then, the platinum starer had a doubt. Grafia, Issei-sama? Issei, yes, Grafia-san? Grafia, the technique of releasing a blue dragon through a kick. I was wondering if there are others. The silver-haired girl asked curiously. Issei, of course there is, it's just that this one could be said to be the most basic and easy to control. Grafia, could you show it to me? Issei, of course, he said, smiling and continuing to show other techniques. End of flashback. The 2 oriental dragons created by the power of Grafia replicating the chestnut's twin dragon had emerged. The chestnut tree, who was still a spectator, looked at this with surprise, and with some fear. Jean, I definitely won't make any of the girls angry, said the brown-haired boy in his mind with fear. Author's note, you have to be an idiot to make a woman angry. Back with Grafia, she was finally ready to launch her most recent attack. She would not fail. This time she would definitely kill the bastard who killed her sister in front of her eyes. With his right leg he launched the 2 dragons that shot towards Amon. The 2 dragons went in a zigzag, almost hitting Amon. He moved quickly. Amon, you failed, he mocked for having failed, but his expression would change. Both dragons, before impacting the crater where Amon was before, their direction had changed. Now they were going towards him. Amon, but how? He exclaimed incredulously. Jean, when you manage to master the attack, you can control where it can go for a short period of time, said the brown-haired man, who continued to observe. Grafia, this is for my sister, she exclaimed while directing her dragons towards Amon. Grafia's attack successfully hit Amon. Amon, curse, he said while being consumed by the demonic power of the attack. Both dragons collided, creating a huge explosion all over the place, raising a large curtain of dust accompanied by a blizzard. It took a while until the dust cleared and the wind was gone. After that, there was no trace of Amon. To make sure, the brown-haired man with his eye skill tried to search, but without result. It was that he had definitely been consumed by Grafia's attack, or that he managed to escape, but there was no way out of that attack. I looked at the sky to find Grafia, who seemed a little agitated. I saw how she began to fall. Without wasting time, the brown-haired boy went to catch her, successfully achieving it. Issei, Grafia-san, you were great, you beat him, said the brown-haired boy, happily carrying the girl bridal style. Grafia, ha? "Hi, yes, Issei-sama, I'm just a little tired from using my body to attack," said the girl. The chestnut tree lowered the girl so she could rest, and also gave her a few boosts with the boosted gear for her quick recovery. Author's note: the chestnut can use the boosted gear even without drag in it. Only with it, the capacity of the boosted gear is double. Both sat on a rock nearby. The brown-haired boy asked her about what that tomb and the subject were. Then the silver-haired girl continued to tell about who was in that tomb and about the relationship she had with Amon. When she finished telling the brown-haired boy, Grafia was serious, but it wasn't the same seriousness she had. Issei, Grafia, the brown-haired boy, didn't know what to say. He knew how it felt to lose someone important. It was difficult to overcome even if a lot of time had passed. Grafia, it doesn't matter anymore, Issei-sama. I have been able to avenge Angelica's death. Wherever she is, may she rest in peace, she said with a nostalgic smile. Issei, you don't have to carry that weight alone. There are the girls, there's me too. Let us carry that weight with you, said the brown-haired boy, trying to cheer up the lucifuge. The brown-haired man stood in front of the woman, hugged her, leaving his head on her chest, and gently caressed the woman's beautiful platinum-colored hair. Issei, I know that Grafia-san is very strong, but there are times when you have to let others protect you, said the brown-haired boy with a soft voice. Grafia felt like an arm of the brown-haired boy hugged her, while another caressed her hair. That warmth, only the brown-haired boy could give it. Unconsciously, tears began to flow from those red eyes. She had begun to cry. Joker, according to the novel and manga, Grafia has red eyes, which in the anime was the same color as her hair. Grafia, sniff, it's that. Sniff. Really, sniff, I really miss him so much. The woman exclaimed in tears, I would give anything to have her back. The brown-haired boy hugged him tightly. He had to get out all that pain he had kept inside. After a while, listening to the cries of the silver-haired girl, he had finally been able to get out that stored pain. Just then, magic circles appeared that were very well known to the brunette and the platinum-haired girl. They were from the sky and the underworld, their respective leaders. From the respective magic circles came Michael, along with Irina and her husband and some other angels. From the underworld, Surzex came, accompanied by Rias and her pieces, along with her husband, Razor Phoenix. They also came with some demons. Both leaders were surprised when they saw the brunette and the platinum-haired girl. Surzex, Jin-kun, but what happened here? He asked, looking at the crater left by the battle. Jin, yo! Surzex-sama, Michael-sama, he greeted politely, although it wasn't a bow, but rather a handshake. Suddenly he received a blow to the head from Grafia. Grafia, Jin-sama, greet properly, the woman said again with her seriousness, but it was clear that she was better now. Jin, hi Grafia-san, he said, rubbing his head, but he was happy to see the same Grafia as always. Michael, what happened here? Asked the overlord of the sky. Jin, about that we could talk about it in private, said the brown-haired man somewhat seriously. The two leaders understood and would immediately go to the Red Mou's office to talk. Before Rias and the rest could greet Grafia, they were warned to return to the underworld, as both leaders had to talk in private. Underworld. In Surzek's office there were him, the brown-haired man, Michael, and Odin. Since they were the only leaders who knew his identity, they put up a barrier of silence so that nothing from here would leave this room. Issei, well, everyone arrived in Zeus-sama? Asked the brown-haired boy curiously, since he didn't see him, since he was one of those who knew his identity. Odin, about that, well, he told me that they were sorting out some things with his daughter Athena on one side. Barakiel and Shemhazai are missing along with Yasaka. Shouldn't we wait for them? Said the father calmly, and finally asking. The chestnut tree did not give importance to the matter with the god of Olympus and his daughter, knowing that in the future it would bring him certain problems. Issei, Azazel has already given up his place, as you know. He was the only one who knew about me, the fallen ones. Yasaka is already aware of this, so I want you to be alert, since we do not know who we will face very soon, said the brown-haired man, remembering that being that came from the future mentioned by Gakuto. What the chestnut man said made everyone serious, since another war would possibly begin. Michael, what do you mean by that, Issei-kun? I asked a little seriously without leaving aside your relaxed expression. Surzex, what do you know about this, Issei-kun? asked the Mao Lucifer seriously, since he had to prepare. What about rise of him? Thanks to the return of the brown-haired man they had their victory. This time they had to be ready. Issei, not much. According to the information I was able to get from one of them, it was so. The brown-haired boy began to tell him about what Gakuto said. With Grafia, the platinum-selling actress, was sitting in a room with her friend Mao. It should be said that Rias was also present with her pieces and Irina. A servant served them all tea. While the Gremries and Irina looked at the silver-haired girl, it was as if they were jealous of her. Mao, I can't believe that bastard was alive, exclaimed the redhead, incredulous, knowing that all this time, Amon was alive. Grafia, I really could avenge Angelica's death, said the Lucifuge, taking a sip of tea. That made Mao calm down, knowing that he had died. The others who were listening to this didn't understand what the two of them were talking about, so they decided to ask. Rias, Grafia ne-sama? Who is Angelica? Asked the crimson redhead. Note: Rias knew that Grafia was not her brother's real wife, but she considers her as a sister, and no one should know about the wife thing or they would have problems. Then Grafia continued to tell them about Angelica and what happened to her during the events of the Civil War. When he finished telling them, everyone was quiet, even more so because during all these years that I knew him, I didn't know about this. Rias, sorry for asking, she apologized. Grafia, no need, I've already been able to take a weight off my shoulders, she said with a slight smile. Mao, changing the subject, how is your relationship with Jean going, huh? She asked sarcastically, nudging her friend. The Gremries felt pain in their chests upon hearing this. It was as if something important had been taken away from them. Grafia, how to say it, it may be a bit silly at times, but they always make us all happy. They will always be by your side when you need them. I couldn't be happier, said the platinum-haired girl. Asia, Grafia-sama. You know that he is a friend of Issei-san, right? Asked the ex-nun. This question made everyone pay attention to the aforementioned. Grafia, yes, I know you are very good friends. Sometimes they come to greet you, said the platinum-haired girl, lying the last part. Irina, and do you know where we can find it? Asked the brown-haired boy's childhood friend excitedly. Zenobia, please. Grafia, I don't know where he is. What if she couldn't finish talking because someone new entered the room? Okasama, I'm home now, said the voice of a young red-haired man with red eyes, well dressed. Mao Milikas, welcome. How did it go with the recordings? He asked his son. The young man, now identified as Milikas Gremry, son of Surzex and Mao, was already a young man between 18 and 19 years old. He had a great resemblance to his father, but his hair was shorter. He came with a red suit with black details. He also knew about Grafia. At his mother's request he had to act as if he were her son. But he stopped doing so when it became official that Mao had recovered. He sees him as an older sister. One last thing is that he is currently the one who gives the voice to Issei Hyoudou in the famous animated program of the New Adventures of the Sekiryuutei, which he did with pleasure, since he has admired him since he was little, even though he was no longer Rias's fiancé. He continued to be a brother to him, and even more so when he found out that he had returned. Grafia, hello Milikas, how have you been? Milikas, Grafia ne-sama greeted with a bow. What were you talking about? He asked curiously. Mao, we were talking about Issei-kun, he said, smiling, making his son excited. Milikas, Issei-san is here? He exclaimed excitedly, since he could see him again after 7 years. Mao, he's not here. Since Jin-kun, maybe you can tell us where he is, she explained. Although she knew who he was, at her husband's request she had to keep it a secret. Milikas, Yakumo? He asked. Grafia, that's right Milikas-sama, Jin-sama, he's in a meeting with Surzex-sama along with some leaders. They'll be done soon. Maybe you can ask him about Issei-sama, she said, smiling. Surzex-san thanked him. Now he just had to wait for that meeting to end to ask him about where the chestnut was. Rias and the others also wanted them to finish quickly, to also ask about where they could find the brown-haired boy. With Issei. The brown-haired man had finished telling what he knew, that the 4 hooded men who kidnapped Sona and Tsubaki were Yasaka's ex-husband, the former demon general Amon. They didn't know much about the other two. They only knew that one was a fallen man and that the other came from the future. The last one surprised everyone, and even more so when he said that he would not hesitate to change places with the leaders to get them out. They must have been someone who knew him very well, to make all of that look very natural. Odin, time travel, that's a very difficult thing. I wonder what he wants, he said thoughtfully, stroking his long beard. Michael, a fallen one, who could it be? I said, thinking about the possible people. Xerxes, it's very difficult to search for them with just those clues. Are you sure that's all you could find out? Issei, yes, that's why I want you to know if you know something or if something is strange. I want you to let me know. Someone who comes from the future will be very dangerous. Michael, count on my help, Issei-kun, but changing the subject, is what my sister said true? He asked, now changing his serious expression to a happy one. Issei, what did he say to you? Confused. Michael, you already have a daughter, he said, smiling. Exactly that. In Xerxes' mind a switch sounded, saying protective brother mode activated. Xerxes, so it's true, ha ha ha. How is it, Akane-cha? Has she behaved well already? Does she miss her Oniai-san? Asked the Mao excitedly. Odin, what? So fast you already have a daughter? Who is the mother? If she is Roswise, I will immediately tell Gondel. She will be so happy that she would give a whole month off to the Valkyries in training just to spend time with her great-granddaughter, haha, said the father of all, laughing. Xerxes, Odin Dano, I'll tell you about that another day, said the Mao, smiling. The brown-haired boy saw this with a drop of sweat. He changed so quickly in the environment. It was so sudden, and to think that Xerxes would become fond of her. Issei, this was all. So the meeting ended, said the calm one, but also with his usual attitude, a happy one. So with the leaders already aware of the last two hooded men left, they would be aware of any suspicious movement. They removed the barrier and left the meeting room. Odin went back to Asgard. Okay, he went as a pervert as always, since he had found a place with beautiful girls. Leaving only Xerxes, Michael and the brown-haired boy, who went to see the girls. When they arrived they saw that they were drinking tea and chatting about trivial things until they saw the barons. Rias, Oniai-sama, how was the meeting? She asked as she stood up. Mao, is everything okay, dear? I asked calmly. Xerxes, everything is fine. It was just some personal things. I see you're back, son. How did it go? He asked, greeting Milikas. Milikas, hello father, I must say as always, incredible. By the way, can I ask Jean-san something? Xerxes, sure, I'll ask whatever you want. Jean, oh, you must be a Milikas, right? While you've grown up these years, he said, the brown-haired boy. The aforementioned was confused. The brown-haired man said things as if he already knew him. Milikas, have we met before? He asked with an arched eyebrow. Grafia coughed a couple of times, until the brunette realized what she said. She almost gave herself away. Jean, no, ha ha ha, the truth is that Issei has told me a lot about his adventures, haha, and well? What did you want to ask me? Said the brown-haired boy, scratching the back of his neck. Milikas, oh yeah. I wanted to ask you if you could tell me where Issei and Ai-san is, said the younger redhead. Rias, Aquino, Asia, Kaneko, Zenobia and Irena, pay attention to what I would say next. Jean, the truth is that the brown-haired boy took a breath before saying the following. Grafia, Mao, Xerxes and Michael, it came to mind that the brown-haired man would reveal himself now. At this moment, his eyes opened slightly, more Grafia, who hoped that it is not what they are thinking. Jean, not even I know where Issei is right now, he said, laughing carefree. This discouraged the Gremory girls, now soldiers, and drew a sigh of relief from those who knew about it. Jean, but one thing is certain, he will always be there when you need him most, and he also completely trusts that you are doing a great job giving the voice in the animated series. Knowing him, he would say the same as me, he said, giving a small fist to the son of the Mao as a sign of friendship. The Gremorys and Milikas for a moment saw a certain person in front of them. He was very familiar. A pain arose in their chests, while Milikas smiled and responded to Jin's fist. Jean, same way. Something tells me he'll show up soon, he said before saying goodbye to everyone. Jean, Grafia-san, are we leaving? He asked, offering her his hand. Grafia, "Hi," Jin-sama answered the silver-haired girl with a slight smile and taking the brown-haired boy's hand. The brown-haired man opened a gap, surprising those who didn't know he could do that. Before entering, the brown-haired man turned to look at Surzex and Michael. "Jean, I entrust you with what was said at the meeting." "Michael, don't worry, we'll let you know if anything happens," said the calm blonde. The brunette and the silver-haired girl bowed and entered the breach to return to the Hyoudou residence in the world of heroes. "Surzex, good, now I'll go get my satanic fishnet suit," said the redhead smiling. "Michael, what are you going to do with the suit? Are you going to film again?" said the curious overlord. "Surzex, hee, it's a secret," he said smiling, not counting that he would ask for the favor of going to that world when the brown-haired man came again. Flashback. Ajuka was talking about the world where Azazel and Chestnut were. It was very different from this one. The technology was a little more advanced in a certain way, and telling that heroes were a profession. Something that interested the redhead. "Surzex, I can't believe it! Why didn't they call me too?" he exclaimed with jealousy at not being able to see that world. "Ajuka, it's because I'm the smartest in the whole underworld." He made fun of his friend, who at that moment was in a corner on his knees and making circles on the floor with his finger. The green-haired boy saw this with a drop of sweat, but he wouldn't tell him that he was building a machine to connect to Azazel's machine, since he wasn't ready, and knowing him, he would go and use it without his permission. End of flashback. The Mao clenched a fist with great determination, while he was deep in thought. Surzek's sad face very soon read, "Satan will show up, you'll see Ajuka. I'll also go to that world," he said in his mind. Michael didn't pay attention to him, and without further ado, he and Irina went back to heaven. "Mao, well, I think you should go back to your homes. It's very late, Rias-chan. It's not good to make your husband wait for dinner." Fufu said the redhead smiling. World of Heroes. It was already night, everyone had dinner, and she would put Venelana's plan into action to help Claudia. Although Olga didn't say what her plan was with Celestine, Sarah Fall, Leifi, Kunu, Ravel and Ophis told her about where the chestnut was. She would ask what happened when he will return. The brown-haired boy along with Grafia came out of the crack in the living room of the residence. Upon leaving, the brown-haired boy was pulled by two spots, one blonde and the other black. It was Yasaka and Kuroka who threw themselves at the chestnut tree, knocking it to the ground. "Kuroka, I see nya," said the Nikomata, bumping her cheek with her boyfriend's. "Yasaka, Issei-kun, what happened? Kunu said that you suddenly went out into an alley. Did something bad happen?" asked the leader of the yokai. But there was no answer. They all looked at the brown-haired boy, who had his eyes swirling around. Maybe because he was caught off guard, the questions would be answered when the brown-haired boy recovered. Cap 25, Shikuraki Promotion, a normal day. Shikuraku, Cherryak, borrowed power, as its name sounds, literally taking the power of a deity. Although it can be demons, spiritual humans, not only deities. Borrowed power is when someone makes a contract with a supernatural entity, which allows the user contractor to take their powers to use, giving a materialized form of the contracted being a violet energy color. That would be the beginning of being able to use borrowed power. By accessing that type of power, the user can buy it as a unique ability for them. The manifestation of the borrowed power is unknown, but since thousands of years ago, when supernatural beings and humans coexisted, the ability was spread by Huaneng, but much is unknown about this strange ability. There are approximate types of borrowed power. 1. Weapon or reinforcement invocation, as its name says, manifests the power in the form of a weapon or reinforces the weapons they have at that moment. 2. Invocation. This type allows the user to summon the entity that he can control or equip to increase his abilities. 3. Parasite. This type is that the borrowed power manifests as part of the user's body. It will spread throughout the body the more you use it, and it will also become more powerful until it consumes the user. 4. Direct contract, as its name suggests, is a more direct type of contract, meaning that the power of the entity is linked to the user, which also allows them to communicate with them. In addition to a more advanced level when using the power of the entity, there is a subtype of this that is much more advanced, which is descendants. As indicated, the user being a descendant of the entity will have much greater access to its powers, being of its bloodline of the entity. 5 ki, are the rarest and most powerful, are able to seal and awaken the power of the gods. You could say that it is what most resembles a sacred gear, being inside the user for reasons of revenge on other gods. You could say that the entities are those who oppose the gods of heaven with this. You could say that it is the main reason revenge. This hatred is one of the reasons why these Chariok in particular are so powerful. 6. The original borrowed power mode, a type of Chariok that can only be used by those who break the taboo. This is one of the most powerful Chariok in existence because the gods infuse their energy directly into the body of their contractor, with notable drawbacks. The human who uses this type of Chariok will either age or become younger. Author's note: this would be a summary of the power provided, and each type, if something is wrong, please comment what other information is missing. But of the 6 types that exist, there will be a 7th type of borrowed power. This one in particular will be granted by certain pieces whose activation method is unknown, until now. World of Heroes, Hyoudou Residence, Training Hall. It was Friday afternoon. The chestnut and the girls who studied at the UA finished their classes. As always, the chestnut upon entering the residence was greeted by his girls. Without fail that most of them pounced on him. But today they had to train. Reason? Well, in approximately 3 months, in the DxD world a tournament of all the factions will be organized. It would be like a world rating game. It would be right during the summer vacation period. It is enough time to continue preparing for when the tournament arrives. Everyone was present except for Lilith, who is playing with Akane and the chestnut's parents. The chestnut tree, along with its pieces and the girls who would be spectators, were in the training room. It was a large room, equipped for combat simulation, and also large enough to be able to fight freely. The chestnut pieces were warming up, each one with their respective clothes to fight. Even Olga, Chloe, Alicia, Claudia, Maya and Lulu had new clothes since the ones they normally wore were very revealing. Some were similar, only now they covered more of their body. Olga's clothing consisted of a long purple dress with black lines. It was a piece that reached from her breasts to her thighs, accompanied by a cape around her waist that went down to her feet, long-heeled boots that reached almost all of her legs, in addition to a piece of clothing that covers her shoulders, tied with a pink bow. His weapon was his staff, although now he got a new one thanks to Leify's help, which will help him increase his magical attacks. Chloe's was simpler. It consists of a dress that reaches her thighs. It was blue between purple which has details like white lines. She was wearing a brown corset type, which carries her sword. In both hands she was wearing long gloves of the same color as her dress that covers most of her arms. On the right side of her arms she was wearing part of a light leather armor with blue metallic parts. Finally some brown boots that covered almost her entire leg. Maya's clothing was the same one she wore in East Asia, only now her pants were complete. Now they covered everything. This clothing was more resistant, thanks to the materials it was made of, and she also had a sword on each side of her waist. Note: uniform only. Lulu now wore a dress similar to a white school uniform with short sleeves. At the ends of the sleeves it was black with a yellow line. Around her neck there was a black V with a yellow line accompanied by a yellow fabric. She wore a grayish-black skirt with black shorts, red metallic gloves that covered her entire forearm, and light red metallic boots. She was wearing her cape and green beret. At least now you can say she is dressed, not like the first time she met the brown-haired man, not forgetting her big axe. Claudia now had a new outfit. Now she wore a black shirt with black shorts. She wore a dark blue corset with a cape that covered her waist. She wore parts of a gray armor on her chest, shoulders, forearm, and legs, without forgetting that she carries a sword. Alicia kept the colors of her previous outfit, only now it covered more skin, and now the armor parts were more noticeable than before. Note: I'm a bit bad at describing, plus sometimes I can't find the words to describe it. The brown-haired boy now wore a martial arts suit, a gris shirt, black pants. It was the typical training attire. Issei okay? Who will be the first to fight? Asked the brown-haired boy while styling. The first to leave was Lulu, who was smiling at having a second fight again, in addition to seeing how much she has improved. Lulu, it'll be me, he said, the lowly smiling as always. It had been a week since the girls from Eostia came to live with the brown-haired boy. While he went to classes they trained, and today he would see the small improvement. The rest of them moved away to watch the match. It was time to see how much the brown-haired loli had improved. Lulu, I hope you're ready, because this time I'll win, said the girl, masterfully spinning her great axe, and then going into battle. Issei, that's what I want to see, he said in a challenging manner, while creating a copy of Rui and going into battle. They both looked at each other for a brief moment before Lulu launched himself at the brown-haired boy to give him the first blow. He would give a big blow with his axe horizontally, which the chestnut intercepted with a Rui. Lulu smiled, and then the axe transformed into a spear, which started to stab and cut quickly, causing the brown-haired boy to be surprised and step back a little. Issei, but what? How did you do that? He asked, surprised while dodging the attacks of Lulu's now spear. Lulu, I asked Penemu-san to help me change my axe for another one, and here it is, haha, answered the loli without stopping attacking. The axe that Lulu brings is a prototype of artificial sacred gear created by Azazel some time ago, trying to imitate Kiba's sword birth, which turned out to be something similar. Instead of creating weapons, he transformed into all kinds of weapons. Thanks to Penemu, he was able to get new equipment for the girls who would participate in the tournament. Lulu, now take this. This. And this. He stabbed and cut to clear the way and get some distance. Issei, that's impressive. In just 1 week since you started training, you've been able to improve quite a bit, praised the brown-haired boy. It was noticeable that his clothes had some cuts. Lulu, even though you're going to be my husband, I won't hold back, so shall we continue? Said the loli as she transformed her weapon into 2 tonfas, with a somewhat particular design. It was like steel crosses. Where they both intersected there was a golden circle. Lulu, it's time to show what I've learned, ha. Horse promotion, he said, and then increased his speed. Here I go. Before the fight started, Lulu had asked permission to do a promotion, which he accepted. Lulu quickly got in front of the brown-haired boy. Thanks to the promotion, she gave a right horizontal blow. The brown-haired boy dodged it. Again the little girl gave a horizontal blow, but this time with her left hand. Again the brown-haired boy dodged it, but he was surprised to see how she fought hand to hand. Even though she had already taught some movements, he hadn't seen those, but it seemed familiar to him. Lulu, take this! Exclaimed the girl after giving her left punch. Now she got into position to give a left hook. The swift left hook was aimed at the chestnut, but he narrowly dodged it by jumping backwards. With the spectators, they looked impressed, seeing how Lulu made their king retreat. Alicia, since when is Lulu so good at hand-to-hand combat? Said an incredulous blonde. She and her fellow nobility knew a little about hand-to-hand combat thanks to the brunette giving some lessons, but seeing the brunette loli, it seemed that she already knew a lot. Maya started laughing, attracting everyone's attention. Gabriel, what's so funny, Maya? Asked the seraph, not knowing how the redhead was laughing. Maya, ha ha ha. Lulu is using Makoto Nanaya's movements. Although it's incredible, their movements are identical, said the redhead. Some did not understand who the girl was talking about, only some understood. Ravel, are you talking about the squirrel girl from the game you've been playing for days? Said the phoenix. She didn't think it was possible to replicate attacks from a game. Chloe, but how is that possible? Said the half-elf, impressed. Maya, Lulu and I have managed to carry out some attacks of that game, thanks to Leify, Grafia and Rosweiss, who taught us a little about how to bring out our powers given by the chess pieces, the girl explained a little. There were different reactions from the spectators. One was astonishment and others were like, is it possible to get movements from a video game? Lulu and Maya, upon arriving in this world, the first thing that caught their attention were video games, to be more exact, fighting games, and regarding using game movements, the possibility of achieving it was high. Back with the fight between Lulu and the chestnut. It looked like the chestnut had the advantage in the fight, making the chestnut dodge, but he knew that she was more powerful than the first time he faced her. Issei, I must admit, you have improved quite a bit in such a short time, but something intrigues me. Where did you learn to use the spear and tonfa, besides that way of fighting? Asked the brown-haired boy while dodging or defending himself from the chestnut's blows. Lulu, I learned it from video games, said the girl. Issei, I understand. Wait. What? He said, amazed. Lulu saw the chestnut tree's carelessness and took advantage of the situation to kick it with both feet together, sending it flying into the air. Issei, Afgaf. He flew out from Lulu's attack, and then crashed into the ground. Lulu, what did you think? Asked the lowly approaching the crater, while her tonfas turned into an axe again. The chestnut tree stood up, showing how his body was somewhat destroyed, and some superficial wounds. Issei, that was incredible. But you still have a lot to do, he said, smiling. Let's finish this so we can continue with another, he said, to disappear. Lulu, damn! She was going to react because the brown-haired boy was already in front of her with one leg on the right side of her head. The chestnut was giving a quick kick, but stopping at the last moment before hitting the chestnut. Lulu, I lost again, said the surprised girl. Since she was sure she could win this time, she knew he was holding back. The brown-haired boy removed his leg to look at the girl, who was staring at him. Issei, is something wrong, Lulu? He asked, somewhat nervous by the way she looked at him. Lulu, I'll beat you next time. HMP, said the lowly, crossing her arms and looking away with a cute pout. The brown-haired boy had a drop of sweat when he saw how the girl behaved. It was something normal for her, but she always seemed sweet. The brown-haired boy caressed the lowly's head, causing her to turn around and look at her king. Issei, hi, try hard, Luchan, said the brown-haired boy, encouraging the lowly with a smile. The lowly blushes when she sees him, lowers her gaze so that he doesn't see how she is, but while she feels the chestnut caresses her head, she begins to laugh. Lulu, he laughed the lowly tenderly, while her little tail moved inside the skirt. Note, I admit you guys would also like a lowly, you admitted. Issei, okay, who's next? Or do you want them all at once? The brown-haired boy asked challengingly. Their pieces smiled, and prepared to attack, while Rosweiss, Leifi and Olga prepared magical attacks. Kuroka was preparing Senjutsu spheres, while making multiple copies of herself, being a tower she could attack in close combat, but she knew it wouldn't work, so she opted for distance. Griselda created a sword of light, ready to attack. The pawns, Ravel, promoted to bishop for a greater magic attack, Kunu to rook, while Alicia, Chloe, Claudia, Maya to knights, while Lulu, she rested a little with the rest of the girls. Ophis was surrounded by a purple aura as she prepared to attack in close combat. Each of his pieces was already ready to attack, while the chestnut, well, seeing so many women ready to attack him, he felt somewhat intimidated. Issei, I think it was a bad idea to say all of them at once, he said in his mind. It was dangerous, so he didn't think twice about entering his Monkey King mode, even though he was still using the re-copy. He gulped as he faced his opponents. The problem wasn't the number, the problem was that they were women. He couldn't win if some of them got angry. With the rest of the girls, they were away from there. At the entrance, they stared at the practice. It was served by Grafia, who now looked much better thanks to the brown-haired man and also telling what happened to her harem companions/friends. Seraphal, Ne Sotan, are you planning to participate in that tournament this year too? The Mao asks animatedly to her dear sister. Sona, Ne-sama, to tell the truth, I have thought about it, and even more so when Rias told me that she would participate this year, said the girl while adjusting her glasses a little. Tsubaki, we won't lose, I just hope the rest train hard, although I think Momo won't be able to, since she's 3 months pregnant, said the girl, taking a sip of her tea. Gabriel, in the last tournament, Dulio came in first, Vala and Sarorg came in second, Xiao Xiao came in third. I wonder, now Issei-kun will participate, he'll surely win, the girl said, smiling. It will be exciting, hee. Author's note, currently the novel still follows the world tournament of the rating game, even unfinished. Do not come to say that others are stronger than them, of course without counting the leaders, since they cannot participate. This tournament is organized every 2 years, where each faction takes the best representatives of their respective factions to fight in this tournament, where they will demonstrate their strength in combat in 2 modalities, and they are the pieces versus pieces, then the king versus king. This dynamic was decided by all the leaders. In addition to giving a role to those who do not have evil pieces to balance with those who have, as is the case of demons, this applies equally to the angels with their brave saint. Ruji, hey Akira? Don't you think it's still a bit early to make that known? I mean, it takes 2 arcs until I get to it. Joker, Akira, not at all. In this one and the next one I will be focusing on that arc. Plus there are only 3 months left until the tournament. I still have to organize how the tournament will be. Let's continue. Ryuji, hey. Wait. Penemu, haha, I still remember how Michael's Joker confessed to you, but you rejected him saying that you already had someone, haha. I still remember the face of everyone who witnessed it, said the cadre, laughing when remembering that moment, although the Seraph was not the only one who has rejected confessions. Venelana, era, and to think that lucky guy was Issei-kun. Fufufu. I wonder how they will react when they find out that Jean is Issei, asked the Bail with a touch of sarcasm. Yasaka, Issei-kun will surely win, although I have the same doubt. Will he participate as Jean or Issei? Asked the Kitsune with a finger on her chin. Grafia, I'm sure the winner this year will be Issei-sama, although it won't be easy, since many have trained for that tournament, said the maid while serving some desserts. Kagaya, excuse me? Will that tournament be for pure supernatural beings? I mean, if it's between all the factions, won't there be a human one? Asked the Miko, giving a point. Prim, I was going to ask the same thing about that. Do humans know about this tournament? Argued the pink-haired girl to the Miko's question. Venelana, only humans who know about the supernatural will know about the tournament, and anyone can participate in the tournament as long as it is in a team, explained the Bail, calmly watching the combat of pieces against her king. Celestine, there must be thousands of teams participating. The winners that Gabriel said must be extremely strong, said the blonde elf, curious about the tournament. Sarah Fall, certainly Seals-chan, they trained a lot to be the winners. In that tournament, no faction leader can participate, and Michael's wildcard was one of the strongest, so much so that he could equal or surpass a Seraph, said the eldest Citri with her always cheerful attitude. Lulu, who couldn't stop watching the fight to see how to beat her future husband and paid a little attention to what was said about the tournament, already wanted to participate, even though she would have to train more. The tournament would definitely be something big, without knowing what the future holds for our group. Back in combat, the chestnut intercepted attacks from the pawns that were promoted tonight with the copy of Rui, while the rest launched magical attacks, causing him to retreat or use his staff by turning it to repel those attacks. Issei, they are really dangerous, he commented without letting his defense down. He had to take special care of his queen, because if both of them got serious, nothing good would come out of this training. Ophis, ha! She said, throwing a punch at the brown-haired boy, grazing his right arm. The brown-haired boy almost dodged it. The fight was quite difficult for the girls, except for the lowly from Infinite, since she had to restrain herself, otherwise both would destroy the entire residence, to say the least. 2 hours later, the chestnut and his pieces continued in combat. Although some were already showing signs of fatigue, the only ones who continued to make their greatest effort were Griselda, Kuroka, Ravel, Rosweiss, and Kunu. Despite being tired, they wanted to go over the limit, and they knew that if they tried even harder they could surpass that limit. It must be said that EP Castano had pushed each one to the limit, whether he was alone against them or creating a few clones. Ophis didn't feel tired, she was simply holding back, just like the brown-haired boy. There would be another occasion where she could fight with everything against her dragon, so she stopped fighting to watch the fight. Kuroka, Kunu, Rosweiss, Griselda, and Ravel were the ones who were still standing. They wanted to surpass their limits. They knew that the upcoming tournament would face strong opponents. They had seen the past 2 tournaments, although the Valkyrie had participated with her former king. The 5 mentioned continued to hit. Now it was no longer at a distance, now it was hand to hand. Kuroka, being the most agile of the 4, kicked multiple times in the air, while the brown-haired girl countered some of them and deflected them with her hands. Rosweiss, being a Valkyrie, had good sword handling, so she summoned a sword to hit her fiancé, but everything clashed with the copy of Rui. Kunu, like Kuroka, tried to hit and kick her, but more kicks, but she had the same result as Kuroka. Griselda, she created an arc of light. They fired multiple shots that some managed to hit the brown-haired man, but due to the high defense of the suit, it barely scratched a little at most. Finally, Ravel, the blonde, had now switched to hand-combat. Each blow she gave was engulfed in flames, but had the same result. it was intercepted by her staff or hands and feet. Note, as I said, the brown-haired boy taught them a bit of taekwondo hand-to-hand combat, but they need more practice. Issei, that's enough, you should rest, you've already given your best, it's not good to overexert yourself, said the brown-haired boy worriedly to the five mentioned. Ross, no, I want to be stronger, said the albino, remembering the fight she had with the Rise of Him army. She and the others were barely able to finish off half of their army, and when her beloved appeared, the other half of the army was easily eliminated, although it felt good that the brown-haired man was protecting her. She also wanted to be strong enough to protect him like he did with her by saving her from Euclid. With this in mind, she will not stop. Kuroka, I can still go on Naya, said the Nekashu. She had a similar thought to Rosweiss. Being protected by the brown-haired man showed how important she was to him. But sometimes you have to let him protect you, right? She wants to protect her man, and if she didn't get stronger, she wouldn't be able to protect him when he needed it most. Kunu, Issei Dano, I can still continue. I will show you that I can overcome my limits like you do, said the younger Kitsune with a determined look. She admired the brown-haired man since he helped her save her mother, his determination to protect, his strong will to always come back stronger. That was what drove him to continue fighting. Revel, Issei-sama, I know you're holding back, but if even with that I can't make him back down or use more force, I won't stop until I achieve it, said the determined phoenix. She knew that her king was very strong. Despite that, even the strongest can also be protected, and it would be her who would do it when the moment warranted it. Griselda, as Gabriel-sama's queen of heart, and his horse, I have to be even stronger. The reincarnated angel knew how powerful her king was, but she had a similar thought to Revel. You have protected me, now it's time for me to protect you. She had to be ready for when that moment comes. The chestnut was a king who would walk by her side no matter what. That differentiates him from others who have nobility. But they wanted to prove that they really deserved to walk by her side. They wanted to protect their king, as he does with them. None of the five gave up. They wanted to continue. It was then that something inside them began to react strongly to their determination. They were the chestnut pieces. The shine of the pieces began to surround their bodies, surprising them, including the brown one. It was bluish in color. It was very thin surrounding them. It was the similar color to when the mark shone and enveloped you, but this time it was not the mark. Ross, what is this? She asked in amazement, seeing that she was covered by that aura. Kuroka, is that the mark Naya? She said, the same surprised as the albino. Griselda, this is it, said the exorcist in astonishment. Kunu and Revel asked the same question. What was happening? But they felt some of their strength returning. The tiredness from a few moments ago was slowly going away, the bluish aura that was beginning to gather quickly around the heads of the five standing pieces. The rest of the pieces saw this with amazement. In a certain way it seemed familiar to them. It reminded them of the chestnut tree's halo. Their gaze remained glued to them. The brown-haired man was the same. Although he wouldn't say anything yet, he wanted to see what was happening. Those who were only spectators, Venelana, Gabriel, Penemu, Sarah Fall, Sona, Lulu and Celestine also watched this, while Tsubaki, Grafia, Prim and Kagaya were not present since they went to the kitchen to prepare the parav so that those who were training could eat something to recover their strength. Back in combat, Rosweiss, Kuroka, Revel, Kunu and Griselda, the aura had gathered around their heads, forming a circle of light. Each time it became more intense until it gave a strong shine, which blinded most. When they could finally see, they did not believe what they saw. Around the heads of the five mentioned was the halo of the Monkey King mode? Unconsciously the girls created 3 clones of each one, and they launched themselves towards the brown-haired boy who, being surprised, received several blows from the 5 girls and their clones. When they finished giving the attacks, the clones vanished. They only lasted for about 10 seconds and then disappeared. When they did, the 5 girls fell to the ground. Before touching the ground, they were caught by the brown-haired man and his clones. Note, according to what she says, if you use the borrowed power for a long period of time, it causes fatigue or great tiredness both physically and mentally. The 5 of them, being the first time they use it, may not get used to it, and added to the tiredness of training they could not maintain it. The rest came over to see how they were, as they seemed agitated and their breathing was a little labored. Venelana, girls, are you okay? Asked the Baal to the 5 mentioned, who nodded to her question. Seraphal, what happened to you a few moments ago? That halo was the same as Isc-chan's, said the Mao with pigtails. Sona, how did you guys get it? Ross, no, I just didn't want to give up. Suddenly that aura surrounded us, and then it transformed into that halo, said the albino, recovering her strength. Kuroka, me too, thought the same thing, that raw sky, and that happened, Naya, said the Nico, also recovering. Ravel, Kanu and Griselda commented the same thing, that they still did not want to give up. When they finished processing what they had seen and what the 5 girls said, some concluded that it was due to 2 possible options. One was because of the mark, but according to what Ofa said, it was more for protection and not for fighting, and the last option is Sona, another thing they have in common, besides their determination, are the pieces, said the younger Citri, as she put together the information said by the 5 and joined the ones they had in common. Olga, if that's the case, why couldn't we express it? Said the brunette elf to Sona, revealing that only the 5 of them. Sona, as they said, having reached their limit, they should have rested, but they didn't want to, added to the determination they had at that moment. Unlike you, something must have synchronized with them, so to speak, but I'm not sure, it's just a theory, explained the girl, adjusting her glasses so that they would reflect the light on her. The rest of the chestnut pieces listened to that, and possibly, Sona was right, and if they had continued, it is possible that they too would manifest that aura. Gabriel, what do you say, Issei-kun? What do you think it is? The seraph asked the brown-haired boy who was thinking. Issei-ah? What's wrong, Gabriel? He asked, confused, not having heard what the most beautiful angel said. Penemu, he said, if you know anything about what happened? The cadre repeated the question again. Issei, I have an idea of what it is, but we will go with the Juka-sama tomorrow so that they can explain it to us, he commented calmly as always. Celestine, and why not now? The blonde elf asked curiously. Issei, well, it's already very late, and I'm sure everyone is already hungry, he answered the brown-haired boy, pointing at the clock at the entrance. Those present looked, and it was true, it was already 8 at night, although it could go quickly, but possibly when analyzing the pieces it would take several hours. Without further ado, they all left the room. The chestnut-haired nobility went to take a relaxing shower all together in the large bathroom of the residence, while the chestnut-haired one would go to an individual one. Even if this Friday of the first of 2 weeks left until the Academy's sports festival begins, it will be a very interesting afternoon to witness what happened in training. The answers to this will soon come. Day after. Today the brunette, along with Rosweiss, Kuroka, Ravel, Kanu and Griselda, would go to see Ajuka, one of the Maos, to talk about what happened yesterday. While the rest of the girls, some would go shopping while others, as in the case of Leifi, would introduce Akane to her parents. Mona, hey Joker? Joker, yeah, cute? Mona, I don't think that if the magician introduces the little girl to her parents saying that she's a mother, I don't know that Arthur cuts the protagonist into little pieces. Joker, not at all, haha, what do you think? Venelana, along with some girls, would go shopping with Claudia for a certain matter related to Chestnut. In simple words, today they would go shopping, although Seraphal would not go due to pending paperwork. Sona and Tsubaki had to take care of some things at the Citri Academy, so the Citri sisters and Tsubaki would be out. Finally, Penemu had gone to the UA for a master meeting about certain matters related to the League of Villains. Issei, Rosweiss, Kuroka, Ravel, Kanu and Office say goodbye to everyone to go to the DxD world, to be more precise, the underworld, Mawajuka Beelzebub's laboratory. Venelana, good. Issei-kun left. It's time to start, Claudia Fufu said the Baal, laughing with a hand covering her mouth and looking at the aforementioned. Claudia, eh? What are you talking about, Venezuelan-sama? Said the brunette, confused. Venelana, more than enough? Right now we'll prepare you so that you're ready for the quota you'll have with Issei-kun tomorrow, Fufu said, Vale, smiling, although she hasn't said anything about this with the brown-haired boy yet, but she knew he would accept. Yasaka, so what do you propose? Asked the leader of the yokais to the Baal. Venelana remained silent for a moment, before saying the following. Then Alana, we'll go shopping. We need to get the best dress for Claudia, said the calm Bale. But no one expected this. Claudia, Venelana-sama? I already have clothes, there's no need to buy more, said the brunette, refusing to what the Bale said. It was partly true that she already had clothes, but being someone who was trained from a very young age to be a knight or swordsman, her sense as a woman was very little of all her clothes. There were more pants than skirts, which technically could be counted on the fingers of one hand, in simple words. Gabriel, don't say that, Claudia, we know that you haven't had a normal life, so this is another good opportunity to experience it, the seraph said to Celestine's personal guard. Celestine, I'll go with you, Claudia. Besides, it's fun to go to those things called shopping malls. There are many interesting things, said the former ruler of animated Eostia. Kagaya, I will also accompany you. There are traditional dresses that I would like to try. Their sewing is very well done, said the Miko calmly as always. Prim, you guys go. Today I asked Okasama to teach me how to cook, and cooking caught my attention, the pink-haired girl commented, happy as always. Venelana, okay, then we'll go with the rest, commented the Bale. Olga, you go. I will go train like the rest of the G nobility. We also want to be able to manifest that halo, said the dark elf, receiving an assent from Alicia, Chloe, Maya and Lulu. Venelana, well then, those of us who are free will go. Good luck with the training, girls, said the brunette calmly, just her with Claudia, Grafia, Yasaka, Gabriel, Kagaya, Celestine and Lilith. The latter, whenever she went out she had fun, although it was always the brunette who accompanied her. As you know, these 7 years, the copy of Ophis has learned to express her emotions in addition to already experiencing them. Let's say that you could say that at first glance she was happier than Ophis. The reason? Well, let's say that after what happened with the chestnut, she had stopped being interested in human emotions. And that was before that event, thanks to the chestnut, that she and Ophis became interested in knowing more about emotions. DxD World, Underworld, Ajuka Laboratory. The Green Mao was in his laboratory making improvements to the portal machine, since Azazel and he agreed to build one in this world to achieve a connection between both worlds. Despite being a Mao, he is more interested in his experiments, inventions and the organization of raiding games. Technically his duty as a Mao was secondary. Not to mention the rest of the Maos. To sum up, the leaders of the biblical factions are somewhat rare for the most part. Surzex and Seraphal have a complex about their younger sisters, while Falbium, well, she is a great war strategist, but she is a lazy person who spends all her time sleeping, and you could say that sometimes she does the work of her fellow Mao. The former leader of the fallen angels, Azazel, well, he wasn't interested in war, but rather he wanted to experiment with sacred gear or Estra in his inventions and research, but above all he wanted to go whoring. Of the overlord of the skies, Michael, he could say that he is the most normal of all of them, but still, is it too much like saying relax, leaving the paperwork to his sister? Well, they are somewhat strange except for Michael, to the point of even fighting to see who gets a ninja, believing that he has great powers, something they have already done a long time ago. In the middle of that, a maid came in to tell him that he had visitors. He had said that he wouldn't receive visitors from anyone until he ordered them to, but the maid said her name and immediately stopped what she was doing and went out to greet the visitor. Ajuka, oh Jin-kun, how have you been? I see you managed to return. Haha, the green-haired boy greeted the guest kindly. Issei, Jin, hello, Ajuka-sama, the brunette greeted with a reverence like the others. Ajuka, there's no need for so many formalities, just call me Ajuka, that's fine, but what's the reason for your visit? Asked the Mao, curious, but it must be something that only he could do. Issei, Jin, it's about my pieces. Just by saying this, the Mao smiled, since each set of pieces created by different high-class demons had its own characteristics, and the chestnut one would not be the exception, since what his pieces had was something unique and never seen before, and this would be a good opportunity to analyze the changes. Without further ado, they went to his office to talk privately. In the office of the Mao Beelzebub, everyone drank, then the brown-haired boy began to tell him about what had happened to Rosweiss, Kuroka, Ravel, Kunu and Griselda, something that surprised the Mao, but it was something logical, since the pieces were created from the power of the one who will obtain the set of pieces. But they rarely manifested. Ajuka, let me see, are you saying that they, with the exception of Ophis, showed the bond of union? asked the green-haired man for confirmation. Note: the halo that appears around the chestnut tree's head when it enters the state of Monkey King or Great Sage is called the Bond of Union. Issei, that's right. I wanted to know if it's something from land pieces or if it's something else I'm thinking about, said the brown-haired boy. The theory was made by Sona, and the second one was a very particular ability from his world where he came from. The girls, who were listening attentively to the conversation between the brown-haired boy and the Mao, still had no idea what happened to them, but one thing was certain, and that was that for a moment they felt a great increase in their magical and physical powers, returning to the conversation. Ajuka, certainly it may be because of your pieces, but something is strange, said the Mao while reviewing some papers that were the analysis of the chestnut pieces. Issei, what thing? He said with an arched eyebrow. Ajuka, according to the third set of god pieces that you left me that I will investigate, each piece has something in particular. He didn't finish speaking because the girls interrupted him. Girls, what? A third set of pieces? Naya? They said in unison, shocked, except for Ophis, who remained calm, but it was clear that she was impressed. A while after she calmed down, Ajuka told the girls that it was actually 3 sets of pieces, but there was only 1 king piece, and she said that she would keep it a secret since if 2 sets were rare, 3 was much more. Flashback. The chestnut had been promoted, and he also obtained 2 sets of pieces to form his nobility. Now everyone left the room to show the chestnut's territory. Before leaving, the Mao Beelzebub asked to speak alone with the chestnut, which he accepted. Issei, Ajuka-sama? What did you want to talk about? Asked the curious boy. Could it be something that only he and the green Mao can know? Ajuka, you see, Issei-kun, you have 2 sets of pieces, right? Asked the green-haired boy seriously, having an affirmation from the brown-haired boy. Issei, that's right. Is there anything else I should know? He asked somewhat seriously, since the Mao showed the same expression. Ajuka, you see. You actually have a 3rd set of pieces. He didn't finish speaking since the brown-haired man interrupted him with an expression of astonishment. Issei, yeah? You're playing a joke on me, right? He said, amazed, still unable to process what the green Mao said. Ajuka, not at all, but I want you to keep it a secret, he said without changing his serious attitude. Issei, of course, but why? After a while he was able to process what the green-haired man had said. Ajuka, if with 2 it's already too strange, and you having 3, I would like to analyze them. You would do this Mao a big favor, said the green-haired man with his attitude turning 180 degrees. Previously he was serious, but when I asked to analyze the pieces, his attitude changed drastically, his eyes shone, while a somewhat silly smile appeared in his mind. The brown-haired boy had a drop of sweat on his neck in the purest anime style. Seeing the sudden change in the Mao's attitude, he accepted without further ado, since it would benefit both of them, especially the green-haired boy, and it would be a secret for now. End of flashback. Ajuka, and that's what happened, the Mao said calmly to the girls, who looked at the brown-haired boy to see if it was true or not, and having a nod that confirmed it. Revel. But how is it possible that Issei-sama has 3 games? If with 2 it was already a lot, the Phoenix asked the Mao, since she knew that her fiancé was strong, but she still did not know his limit at 100%. Ajuka, the reason is simpler than you think. You see, Issei-kun said that before being reincarnated, he was already someone called Jin, although he still is, and before being Jin, he was Sun Wukong, isn't that right? Explained the Mao, while the girls listened attentively. Ross, but what does that have to do with Issei having 3 sets of pieces? Asked the albino. It was a good question that the Mao already had an answer to. The brown-haired boy was the same, since he didn't know either, and we still need to know about the manifestation of the bond of union in some of his girls. Ajuka, as I said, the reason for 3 games is much simpler than you think. It is more in a spiritual sense than scientifically, and it is because each game represents a life of Issei-kun, said the Mao. Although for him it was clear, the girls did not understand yet. Ajuka, Sai, how many names does Issei-kun have? Asked the Mao to make it easier for him to understand. Kuroka, she has had 3 names, so what does it have to do with Naya? Asked the Nekashu. Ajuka, it's simple, since each set represents the life that Issei-kun had, one like Sun Wukong being the first, the second is Yakumo-ji, the third and last is Hyoudou Issei. Each set of pieces represents one of his 3 lives, and about having a king piece. It's because it's the fusion of the 3 pieces of each set, explained the Mao to the girls and the brown-haired boy, who finally understood the reason, although there were still more questions to ask. Griselda, Ajuka-sama, but I understand that Sun Wukong and Yakumo-jin were not reincarnated, they just became a baby and slept for hundreds of years. How can it be 2 Seth, if technically they were in the same life, said the reincarnated angel. It was another good question, since in a certain way, it was not a reincarnation. But it was in the same life. Ajuka, about that, how to say it? Said the green-haired man with a hand on his mind. I have it, as you may have heard from Issei-kun. When he was Sun Wukong, after defeating Buddha, he was captured by the Jade Emperor. After unknown reasons, he disappeared and his form returned to that of a baby, and he was sealed inside a crystal. That could be said to be a reboot, which we can consider a new life, explained the Mao. Ajuka, with glasses and a white coat, where did he get it from? Who knows? What the Mao Ajuka was saying made sense in a way, considering that each set represented a life that the chestnut had had. It was hard to believe, even though he was the first being that had been reincarnated into another. It had some logic, right? Ross, a question. Ajuka-sama, said the albino politely. To speak is about why we manifest the bond in US? Asked the Valkyrie. Since all this time, the Mao was only explaining how it is that he had 3 sets of pieces. Anyway, they had deviated a little from what they had come to consult. Ajuka, oh, that's right, I got a little off topic. Well, what we were saying, as I was saying, each piece has something in common, and it's something I've never seen, and that is that each piece, whether it's a pawn or not, can have a promotion, said the green Mao, surprising those present. To tell the truth, when he analyzed the pieces, he was also surprised that they had this ability similar to that of a promotion. Could all the other pieces move to other pieces? Asked the Kitsune in surprise, as were Rosweiss, Kuroka, Ravel and Griselda. Ajuka, no Kunoheim, this is a little more different, what I've been able to find out so far, and that is that all the pieces can manifest the bond of union. It's like a type of promotion that allows you to have some of the abilities of its king, in addition to a great increase in physical and magical power. And the way to activate it is that the pieces react to their emotions, explained the Mao, looking at the sheets where he had written what he had so far about the god pieces, but there is something else that I can't explain what it is. Issei, and is it? He asked curiously, since in his mind he had another possible reason for what happened with 5 of his pieces. Ajuka, how to explain it, said the Mao thoughtfully until he could figure it out. It's like a part of you were in the pieces, he said, giving another point to the brown-haired boy to confirm what he had in mind. It is true that the evil pieces have part of the power of the one who created them with his power, but this was different. It was more like a type of contract. Ophis, who has been silent all this time, had managed to understand a little about how to manifest the bond, but it would be very difficult, since it would have to go beyond its limit, since it is infinite. All those present were processing everything the green-haired Mao had said about that strange ability that the brown-haired man had, a promotion that all the pieces had. All of them were thinking until the brown-haired man said something that would catch the attention of those present. Issei borrowed power, Shikuriki, Cheriok, the only thing he said, this attracted everyone's attention. Girls borrowed power? Naya, the girls said in unison, not understanding what they just heard. Ajuka borrowed power? He said curiously. He had heard that the brown-haired man said that during his life as a Jin, to fight against Satan he had used that, but he had not said more details about that. Then the brown-haired man began to explain what borrowed power was, even though he didn't have the slightest idea of what it was, only what he had seen in the past. A moment later, after an explanation from the chestnut about what borrowed power was, which they hardly understood, the Mao Ajuka came to a conclusion or theory. This was definitely because of the pieces and the borrowed power. Ajuka, I got it. Now everything makes sense, said the Mao, making her look at him for an answer. Ophis, what did you understand? Asked the lowly in a calm tone, but showing some curiosity. Ajuka, it is borrowed power that you used, which is also at the same time a promotion due to the pieces. At the time that you accepted to be Issei-kun's pieces, it was like some kind of contract, in this way, and added that during the combat training that you had with him, by taking you to surpass your limits. Your determination was the key to access that power, explained the green-haired man to those present, being that he also noted the very peculiar ability that these pieces had. After a moment, with Ajuka's explanations, in addition to the fact that until now the way to access that power was unknown, they only knew that the piece must be synchronized with the being in order to access it, something that everyone would try to find out, as is the case with Ajuka, and Rosweiss, Kuroka, Ravel, Kunu and Griselda. They were happy, since it could make Vilvery stronger, so they would strive to learn how to access that power. Ajuka, Issei-kun, have you already given a name to that promotion? He asked the brown-haired boy, since if not, he had a perfect name for it. Issei, to tell the truth, no, I had thought that it would just be borrowed power. I can't think of any name for this, said the brown-haired boy with a hand on his chin, thinking about what name to give. Ajuka, if you don't mind, I have the perfect name for that ability, said the green-haired boy, smiling, since he had the perfect name for that. Those present paid attention to the Mao, to see what he would say. Ajuka, Shikuriki promotion, said the Mao, smiling. The word is made up of borrowed power, Shikuriki, and promotion. When we put them together it would be that. It is something simple and easy, but it sounded great. With Venelana, Grafia, Yasaka, Gabriel, Celestine, Kagaya, Lilith and finally Claudia, who was the reason for being here today at the mall, was to choose a good outfit for the brunette, since when she returned, they would ask to go on a date with Claudia. With magic she had hidden elf features, and Tasaka simply hid her yokai characteristics. Although in this world it could be said that it is something normal, but they did not want to attract attention. The 8 girls walked calmly towards a clothing store. Of course, to say that they didn't attract the attention of men would be a lie. Even some women stared at them. 7 beauties were in front of them. Each one was a beautiful woman. They had their own charms. Some men approached them to try to flirt with them, but they failed completely. That or they were intimidated by Grafia or Yasaka. Lilith being a little girl, it was believed that she must be the daughter of one of the older ones. The group of girls, upon arriving, immediately went to look for clothes for the brunette to try on, in addition to Celestine and Kagaya also trying some on. Claudia, Venelana-sama? Don't you think this is okay? The brunette asked the Bale, since she had already tried on several sets of clothes. Now she was wearing jeans, with a pair of black high-heeled sneakers, a white blouse-type shirt that showed off a good cleavage, finally a soft gray jacket. In short, she looked beautiful. Since Claudia was not one of those who wore skirts a lot, so they opted for a more casual style without a skirt, of course. Venelana, not at all, you look great. Claudia, what do you think, girls? Asked the Bale to the rest of the girls present. Yasaka, Venelana is right, you look beautiful. But we still have to try on other clothes that we chose for you, said the kitsune, showing other sets of clothes. Which one do you want to try on first? Gabriel, we must make you look good for Issei-kun. He'll be left with his mouth open, he said the seraph, laughing, already imagining the brown-haired boy's reaction. Claudia sighed. It was true that she also wanted to look good for the brunette, but it was very difficult to act like a woman. I mean, all her life she has been educated to be a gentleman by her ex-father-in-law. In addition to when she married her late husband, she did not feel what she felt towards the brunette. It is true that she played the role of the wife, just that, she was grateful to the now extinct Levantine family, and towards Klaus, despite loving him, she did not feel the same as now. Maybe what she felt at that moment was gratitude towards that family. She looks at those who are now her friends. Even Celestine now saw him as a friend instead of the always king and her bodyguard. Her life had changed a lot since she met the brunette at that moment. This new life really pleases her, and she was not the only one who the brunette. It could be said that if it were not for his appearance her destiny would be dark. Even the others who came from Istia was so deep in her thoughts that she didn't know the rest of the girls were looking at her. A small smile appeared on her fine face. The rest of the girls looked at Claudia confused, since they could see a small smile on her, but for a certain seraphim who could see the emotions, he understood why she was smiling. Gabriel approached Claudia smiling to say, Gabriel, you were thinking about Issei-kun, weren't you? Asked the angel with a tone of amusement, while looking at the brunette who was taken out of her thoughts by what the seraphim said, whose face immediately turned red. Claudia, me? It's not. Wah! Exclaimed the woman with a red face, while shaking her head with her hands, and also stepping back a little, but being nervous she took a wrong step and fell on her butt. The girls laughed a little, then continued to have Claudia try on more outfits. An hour later. The girls now went to a stand to take a break and have something to eat. It was fun to have Claudia try on some outfits. Celestine, Kagaya and Claudia were the only ones who bought, and the rest didn't. Now they were all resting inside a cafe. Some were drinking tea, coffee, and others were drinking milkshakes. But anyway, they were talking about trivial things. Apart from them, those present looked at the group of boys in wonder. It was hard to believe that there were women like that. Not even the models or heroines were close to them. Especially Gabriel. They were all foreign beauties and one Japanese, each with a body that any woman could envy. With 7 women, you could say there was a variety. Claudia, thank you for buying me these clothes. Thank you, Venelana-sama. The brunette thanked the Bale, and she had fun spending time outside. Venelana, you don't have to thank me, and it's not necessary to be so polite. Just call me Venelana. Just wait for Issei-kun to return and I'll take care of the rest of Fufa, said the Bale, smiling as she took a sip of her drink. Yasaka, we have to be even. No one will be more than others. It is something that we all agreed on before you arrived, said the kitsune, addressing Celestine, Kagaya and Claudia. Something that the girls of the DxD world had already said to those of Eostia, but they still didn't understand how it was possible to share a single man with so many women. It is true that the brown-haired man had a certain mysterious charm, whether it was because of his feeling of protecting or that happy and relaxed attitude of always, it was still difficult for them to understand. It was Claudia's thought. It was true that she felt something for him, but seeing that there were so many women, would it be a good idea? He was so wrapped up in his thoughts that you could see on his face a somewhat insecure and doubtful expression, something that did not go unnoticed by the rest of the girls. Gabriel, Claudia, you've been very thoughtful since you tried on each set of clothes. Tell me, is something wrong? The seraph asked the brunette, who sighed, a sigh that seemed like one of defeat. Kagaya, Claudia Dano, if you have any problems, don't hesitate to tell us what's happening, the Miko supported calmly as always. Celestine, it's because of Issei-kun, isn't it? Said the light elf to her friend/personal guard. She knew Claudia well, although she still didn't know this new facet of her that well. But in a certain way it must be related to something that she didn't understand. The first thing that came to mind was the brown-haired girl. Claudia, I've always wondered how is it possible that all of you can share the same man. I mean, it's normal where we come from to have a small harem, some nobles. But this is the first time I see so many women accepting without getting angry. I mean, in Eostia the women of a harem always fought each other when their beloved wasn't there. Why are you all so different? Said the brunette to the girls of the DxD world, although in a certain way it was also going to those of Eostia present. The girls present remained silent, but not in an uncomfortable way, but rather calm, as if this were not a problem. Venelana, so that was it. I thought it was a serious problem, said the Bale calmly, since she knew very well what to say about this. It was also the same with Grafia, Gabriel, Yasaka, Kagaya and even Lilith. Yasaka, so you still feel insecure? Tell me, are you sure you want to do this? Asked the kitsune with a somewhat serious attitude, since she knew the consequences of a love that was not appropriate for a dragon, even if it is one. She will not allow that, knowing that in a certain way the brown-haired man was psychologically damaged after the ritual. He may look normal, but he is not. Gabriel, I know it's something new for you, but I really want you to think carefully before making a decision now, said the seraph, putting aside her cheerful attitude. She, along with the rest of the girls of the DxD world, knew of a consequence that Drake had told them. Of course the brown-haired boy didn't know this. Because if he knew, he would find a way to hide it, knowing that in a certain way he was bad at it. Celestine and Kagaya did not understand the drastic change of Venelana, Grafia, Yasaka and Gabriel. They knew about the fall of the dragon, but seeing them it seemed to be more serious than that, although Lilith did not know about it, since in a certain way she did not want her to know. Grafia, Claudia, I'll ask you something, said the silver-haired girl seriously. Besides leaving the honorifics aside, she wasn't the one who did that while she was on maid duty. But she also knew something about an extra consequence that not even the brown-haired girl knows, and even less the girls from Eostia. Claudia accepted the Lucifuge's request. If she could clear her mind she would, but seeing how she is now, it would be difficult. Grafia, tell me, what do you prefer? See the person you love being with another woman, or sharing her love? Was the only serious Lucifuge said. Claudia didn't know how to answer. She wanted to say that she wanted to share her love, but on the other hand it was still difficult for her to accept this. They could call her selfish, but it was true. Besides being new to these feelings, they didn't fully understand. Venelana, I know it's a little difficult, but it's normal in the supernatural world and more in dragons, who can be polygamous, said the Baal calmly to Claudia, who did not know what to say. Claudia, before you say something, let me tell you that I was also married as an arranged engagement. At first I did not like it, but I was able to love Xiaticus for many years. But to tell the truth, since Rias was born in a certain way, our relationship had been changing. He no longer spent as much time with me as before. In fact, he spent more time with the rest of his harem than with me. At first glance you could say that our marriage was perfect. We have a son already married, and with a son, a daughter who had been engaged to the third son of the Phoenix family. To tell the truth, I was opposed to him, but for Xiaticus he did not take into account the opinion of Cerzex and Rias, or if want from me. In a certain way my daughter reminded me of myself back then. Unlike me, who accepted without being able to oppose, Rias took advantage of any opportunity to break the engagement. Since then me and Xiaticus have started to discuss whether what she did was right for our daughter, but we never reached any agreement. My daughter and the third son of the Phoenix faced each other in a rating game. If she won, the engagement would be annulled, said the Baal to give a small pause. Claudia, and she won? Asked the woman, more interested in what Venezuelan was saying. Grafia knew very well about the relationship Venelana had with her ex-husband. In fact, Cerzex also knew. The only one who didn't know was Rias and Milikas, that since they were minors it wasn't good for them to see an argument. Also Mao, upon recovering, had caught up with this. Venelana, my daughter lost her first rating game, so she agreed to get married without any effort, said the Baal, remembering how she saw the brown-haired boy for the first time. Back then 2 days passed, and that's when Rias's engagement party with Razor took place. It was then that Issei-kun interrupted the party. It took place one-on-one, where once again my daughter's happiness would be at stake. From what she knew is that he had sacrificed his left arm to gain power. Celestine, wasn't Issei that strong back then? Interrupted the blonde elf. Grafia, to tell the truth, at that time it was nothing compared to what it is now, answered Celestine's question, the platinum-haired girl being the one who witnessed those events the closest, and then Venezuelan will resume her story. Venelana, it was where Issei-kun was able to defeat Razor to free Rias from her engagement, said the Baal. Her gaze gained a certain shine at that moment. Something in me couldn't stop looking at him. Maybe it was interest, but you know, when I saw how he fought for my daughter, I really felt some jealousy that she met a boy like him. If I had fought back then to break my engagement, maybe I wouldn't have been able to meet Issei-kun, finished the Baal, smiling, taking a sip of her tea. Maybe what Venelana said doesn't have much to do with Claudia's situation, but in a certain way, Claudia could identify with what Venelana said. Claudia, why are you telling me this? Asked the brunette. She still didn't know why, but whatever was coming would be answered. Venelana, because in Issei-kun I was able to find the feeling that I had lost a long time ago, to love someone like I have never done before. I know that many will say that there are better men than him. It may be true, said the woman without stopping smiling with that sweet smile, but for a woman in love he will always be her ideal man, finished saying the Baal, surprising Claudia. Venelana, don't be afraid, put aside your doubts, listen to what you really want. Claudia, if you are afraid or have doubts you will be like now, then what is your answer? Maybe at first glance the marriage of Xiaticus and Venelana seemed perfect, but it is not like that. It could be said that they hardly speak anymore. But when Castano became Rias's protégé, the relationship between her and her ex-husband improved, communication had become better. But things fell again when Castano exchanged places with the leaders 7 years ago. That was where the relationship between Venelana and Xiaticus became officially public, where both divorced. For Venezuelan this was like a weight less, after so many years of a dysfunctional relationship. But not everything was bad. In those years that the chestnut was locked up she was able to know that he did not see the chestnut as if he were a son-in-law but as a man. Another thing is that he returned to the Baal territory to live with his brother. the acting patriarch of the Bale clan. His divorce was made known 4 years ago, where marriage requests were not long in coming. Why would he want a divorced woman? It's simple, she is known as the strongest female Bale of all. A child with her would ensure a demon of great power. But for her, she had already confirmed her feelings and more when her daughter had made public her relationship with Razor. She tried to tell her daughter that if it was what she wanted. But apparently she did not think the same as her mother. During Ira's talks to make her daughter think about it before making a decision, she had realized how important the brown was to her. She would let her daughter choose her path. She was already older, also as a divorced woman. It was within her right to seek her happiness. She knew that he would return. If necessary, she would wait for him for all eternity. Loving a man who has many women can be difficult for a woman to accept, having to share the same man. The girls had had the same question as Claudia in their minds. It was difficult, but unlike having a harem where one man leaves the rest, the brown-haired man was different. They knew that he would have love for them, since all of them are his first place. What would you prefer? Seeing the person you love with someone else? Or sharing it knowing they'll give you the same love? In the human sense, it might be difficult to decide, but in the supernatural world, it's a different story. Before Claudia could answer, the place where they were resting was assaulted by a trio of small-time villains. "Villains, hands up, damn it!" said one with the appearance of a lizard accompanied by another who seemed completely made of stone. Finally there was one with incredible muscles that measured 2 meters. What were some villains doing robbing a cafe? The answer was simple. Among the customers was a certain daughter of a millionaire. It's unknown where they got the information, but they were right on the mark. Gabriel, Celestine, Lilith-chan, Kaiguya and Claudia stand behind me, said the seraph, preparing to fight. Well, wipe the floor with them. Not for nothing does the most beautiful and strongest woman in heaven say so. Claudia, but Gabriel-sama, I can take care of them, said the woman in position to unsheath her sword. Unfortunately she had a noble one. She still couldn't use magic to bring it, much less try to attract attention with that TSK. Damn, she said angrily for not carrying her weapon. Gabriel, calm down Claudia, they will take care of them, said the seraph, returning to her calm and happy attitude. Why? Well, she pointed at Venelana, Grafia and Yasaka, who showed a bit of demonic power, and the last Jujutsu. Lilith, I can fight too, said the copy of Ophis. Lilith, I am very strong. Venelana charged the power of destruction in her hands. A red and dark energy surrounded the Bale's hands. Grafia let out a little of her demonic power, but it wasn't enough to be noticed. The ground around her showed traces of freezing a little. Finally Yasaka, the leader of the yokai, created several blue spheres. It was like fire, although she did not let out her yokai traits, but it was more than enough. The presence of these 3 attracted the attention of 2 of them. Lizard villain, oh but look what we have here, said the long-tailed cat, looking at the 3 beautiful women. Stone villain, I think we'll take something more than just the daughter of that stupid guy, said the stone heir between laughs with unholy thoughts related to the 3 women. Hey, you go get the girl. We'll have a nice chat with these ladies, said the stone SE to his muscle partner, who snorted at this, since he had to search among all those present for the daughter of a millionaire, since he is one of those who gave funds to the heroes. The lizard-like villain went up to Grafia, showing his tongue out, licking himself. The lizard, hey precious, would you like it ag high? The reptilian being didn't finish speaking, right? The platinum-haired woman had frozen her mercilessly. Although she could have come out alive, being a lizard, surely her physiology would also resemble one, so the cold would affect her greatly. Grafia, I'm sorry, but I already belong to someone, and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world, said the lascivious to the reptilian villain who was already inside an ice pillar. The villain made of stone saw this, didn't think twice, and started attacking. V. Piedra, damn hitch, he said angrily, throwing stones in the direction of Grafia. Before the rocks thrown by the villain could reach Grafia, Venelana stood in front of it, extended her hand surrounded by the power of destruction. The rock, upon coming into contact with the power, was immediately disintegrated, surprising those present and the villain himself. Following that, Grafia made a waterfall appear below the stone being. Before the stone villain could react, he was enveloped by Grafia's magical attack, which when dissipated, the unconscious stone being could be seen falling to the ground. Venelana, Yasaka? How are you doing with the last one? The Baal asked the kitsune. She and Grafia had finished off the two villains, now all that was left was to take care of the muscle mass, which Yasaka would take care of. With Yasaka, the blonde had finished off the muscular being, who was lying on the ground with multiple traces of light burns. Yasaka, I'm done too, said the kitsune, smiling and giving her thumbs up. The act of these three women was seen by all those present, and heroes who had arrived took photos and recorded what these three had done, since each one had a very particular quirk, especially the Venezuelan one. Not knowing that these could bring certain heroes interested in recruiting them in the not-too-distant future. The three women met up with Gabriel as if nothing had happened. Venelana continued where she left off with Claudia. Venelana, well? What's your answer, Claudia? She asked, returning to her calm and friendly attitude. The aforementioned took a breath to say her answer. Fear and insecurity was something that clouded her mind, but if you didn't take risks you wouldn't know what awaited you ahead. Claudia, UA meeting room. In the conference room, all the teachers of the academy were present. That includes Azazel and Penemu. What are they talking about? Well, it's about who the people behind the attack were. They were just petty criminals, and only two of them were the most important. According to the information given by a police officer, there is very little information about the two of them, only that one of them is known as Black Mist. Besides that, they had no information at the moment. The next to speak was the Nomu, which was found 5 kilometers away from us, which had been trapped in some mountains of the place. They captured it and analyzed it, coming to the result that it had several quirks in it, but that its mind was about to say nothing. It was as if it only obeyed orders from its creator or master. Azazel, I think I have a way to find out who those two are, the former governor of Grigory said to those present, although his way of speaking still seemed to be that he was taking it as a game. All Might, do you have any way to find out? Asked the symbol of peace in his weak form. Maybe it didn't seem like it, but he knew that everyone who was closest to the chestnut tree was hiding something, but they didn't seem to be hostile. Azazel, I have my ways of finding information, he said between laughs. Before you ask how, he said, looking at the rest who knew he would ask something like that. They looked at the fallen one waiting for an answer. Azazel, it's a secret, Kaka said the fallen one as if it were the best answer in the world. He had his methods, but he wouldn't talk about it with them, but with the brown-haired one. This made the heroes almost fall in the purest anime style. Seriously, is this a master? How did he manage to work on the nail? Among other questions related to the fallen one, it was a mystery that no one would know. In another seat, the Penmu cadre was located. She had to attend this meeting on the subject of the attack, although at that time she still did not work here, and she also had another matter to discuss, and that was about security during the day of the sports festival. Penmu, why didn't I go shopping with the girls to help Claudia? She asked herself mentally while sighing.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.